You don't need a cape just to help someone win. Do something simple, do something true. Make a sandwich for a friend, hold the door for someone too. Facts still matter, it starts with you. Check on your neighbor, share what you can do. One small action turns into a wave. Do something today, be the change that you crave. Facts still matter, it starts with you. Facts still matter, it starts with you.
It does indeed. It starts with you. It starts with me. It starts with each of us. Thank you, friends, for being here. Welcome to the show. It's Monday, July the 27th. Holy shit. Wow. Yeah, we know you've got many choices to make every day, and we are super grateful that you choose to spend some time with us. So thank you, friends. You know the drill. Tapping is clapping, and liking is loving, and sharing is caring. Gift goal, please light that up. Please check out the gifts in the gift gallery as well. Take care of that if you wouldn't mind. We are also continuing to crowdfund for the Do Something Tour. Cash App, PayPal, Venmo. We are approaching 21K. We're kicked off our contest this week. In fact, we're going to announce the winner of last week's contest at 10 o'clock this morning. Any donation of $3 or more will get you into the contest. Again, Cash App, PayPal, Venmo, all at Facts Still Matter. If you wouldn't mind, would really appreciate that. Head on over to the link tree that's in my bio. You'll find links to a variety of things, including the merch store, which is Facts HQ or factsstillmatter.site. Also available. I'm a big fan of human rights. You can find that shirt in there as well. By the way, winner of the contest will get an item of their choice from the merch store. And if interested, you can be a co-host. You can either co-host a segment of this show, the morning show, or our evening show, which is called That's a Wrap. We are also doing debate nights 3 nights a week, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. We had an interesting conversation on Saturday night that evolved into a whole bunch of things, a couple of programming notes for you guys. I'm doing an interview later today. I'll be interviewing former California gubernatorial candidate Chad Bianco. Many people may know of him, controversial figure. We have some technical challenges, so we'll be doing the interview via Zoom, and then we'll be creating content, and I'll be posting the interview either here, a combination of places, here and YouTube as well. Hold on a second, gotta turn that on. Speaking of YouTube, by the way, friends, so I had an issue with OBS, which is the streaming tool that I use for YouTube, and it crashed last night. And I was assuming that the YouTube was off, but apparently it wasn't. So it looks like it was just streaming all night with no content. I don't know. Anyway, I think it's fixed now. So there's that. So thank you for that, friends. Appreciate you all. What else? I guess that's it. Oh yeah, the Discord. Please consider joining our Discord. We just ask that you go through the verification steps. It's pretty simple. We only ask for blood, your firstborn, access to your family's riches, wealth, and a picture of your fishing boat. That is the number one question on the list after your name, of course. But again, thank you for being here, guys. I really appreciate you. Welcome to the show. All right. First, we always check gas prices because of the volatility. Oh, by the way, it is the 219th day of the federal government breaking the law by not releasing everything connected to the Epstein files. We have more on that story, a little bit more this morning about how Democrats have made it very clear that when they get back in power in November, which of course we're all going to vote, correct? Yes. When the Democrats get back in power in November, there will be some of the people that have already testified who, because the Republicans were in charge, they could do it either behind closed doors or not under oath, and that's all going to change. A gentleman by the name of Jess Staley, we'll talk about that in a little bit. So gas prices sit at $4.11, up from $4 a week ago, $3.87 a month ago, and $3.14 a year ago. Diesel is now at $5.29. It was $3.73 1 year ago. So this administration will continue to gaslight you to try to convince you that, well, under the Biden administration, gas prices were higher, and that is true. At one point in time, gas gallon of regular cost over $5. One particular day in June, we have that recorded. So let them gaslight you. That's what they're going to do. That's all they have left, and that shows you how desperate they are. So we've got some updates on the latest from the Gulf because there's some really interesting happenings within the administration. Losing support for a whole. Actually, let me update the gift goal. Losing a whole bunch of support. I'll do that in a second. For the continuation of the war, John Kennedy. We're going to play some sound from him this morning, Senator from Louisiana. He's like, why the fuck are we giving Saudi access to nuclear technology? So we'll get into all that. But first, the latest. This is an interesting story because you remember the controversy we shared last week about how the administration tried to downplay the amount of casualties. One of the biggest ones was this really strange scenario where the four service members that lost their lives last week in Jordan after attacks from Iran. The administration tried to claim that because it was during the ceasefire, it didn't count, which I think is extremely, thank you, Swishy Raiders, good morning, which I think is extremely odd. Well, that's been revised again. The Pentagon has revised U.S. casualty figures upward. New official figures report 18 U.S. service members killed and 624 wounded. We don't know the severity. We wouldn't necessarily know. Good morning, love. Good morning. Oh, can I pin that comment? That's the best. That's good morning, love. Oh, that just warmed my little heart. Thank you, sweetheart. I appreciate you. Anyway, 624 wounded since the conflict began, reversing an earlier disputed reduction in the publicly reported toll. This is a significant change and confirmed. I'm all flustered out because my girl said, my baby who's going off to college, miss you too, sweetheart. Oh. Are you gonna check in with me every single day before you go to school, Rowan? Like you're gonna have your lunchbox packed? Okay. Anyway. Alas, the pause in direct U.S.-Iran military operations has now extended into a third consecutive night. U.S. officials say the pause is intended to give diplomacy more time, while Iran has continued to refrain from attacks during the same period. Diplomatic efforts have advanced, but no breakthrough has been reached. Mediators from Oman, Qatar, and Pakistan. Oh, that's the best answer ever. Thank you, sweetie. Diplomatic efforts have advanced, but no breakthrough has been reached. Mediators from Oman, Qatar, and Pakistan report progress in direct talks focused on preventing renewed fighting and addressing navigation through the strait. However, there's no formal ceasefire or negotiated settlement, and major disputes, especially over Iran's nuclear program, remain unresolved. Iran has publicly stated it's not requested a resumption of direct talks with the U.S., while acknowledging Omani mediation on maritime issues. Tehran has also said there has been no change in the situation in the strait. That's an interesting statement for the administration to make because we've got reporting from the New York Times that weapons stockpiles have been depleted, and that is part of the reason why there is so much such a reduction in activity. It's like the third night in a row where there's been no activity. Well, Mike Walls, who was Mike Walls was the former national security advisor who got fired because of the Signal chat. Remember that whole fiasco? He was on the morning shows yesterday with Kristen Welker, and she asked him. So I'm going to play this interview for it. I played a chunk of it last night on our evening show called That's a Wrap. Please come back tonight at 9 o'clock Eastern time. This is a good section of that interview, and she's going to ask him about this because it's kind of a big deal. The fact that we don't have enough weapons to support the war, in particular, air defense. In air defense, because we're again the reporting, because there is a reduction in air defense capabilities. Some people are then assuming that one of the reasons that base in Jordan was attacked is because perhaps there was not enough air defense for those particular service members who lost their lives. So here you go. Hang on a second.
Welcome back to Meet the Press.
Thank you. Good to be with you.
So you're going to be hearing from Mike Walls. Mike Walls is the U.S. ambassador to the United Nations currently. And he used to be the national security advisor.
It's great to have you here in person. I do, of course, want to start off by talking about Iran. The U.S. has been conducting nightly raids against Iran for the past 2 weeks, really. In recent days, the president said the U.S. was, quote, locked and loaded, and he was considering a massive strike, he said. Then on Friday and Saturday, no strikes were reported in Iran. Has the president decided against escalation for now, Ambassador?
I wouldn't go that far at all. the president is keeping all options on the table. I've spoken with the negotiators. I've spoken with Secretary Hegseth. What the president is doing right now, as we've seen all along, is giving some talks, some space. Talks are ongoing. They're happening at every level, from the more technical aspect of it all the way to the highest levels, of course, within both the Iranian government and the U.S. government. What we are constantly seeing, though, is on the Iranian regime side, they are divided. There is internal fighting. Some are seeking the guidance of the supreme leader. Others want to move into a different direction. And that makes it hugely challenging from a diplomatic standpoint, but to get to some reasonable resolution here.
So are strikes effectively halted for the next several days, or can we expect to see some strikes tonight, tomorrow, in the coming days?
Well, I would take the president very seriously if I was the Iranian regime. The U.S. military is locked and loaded. In fact, more assets have gone into the region. And as we've seen, we have focused on those assets that have illegally struck civilian shipping. I mean,
how can you say, like, illegally? What? I mean, are we not at war, Mike? You want to accuse Iran from defending its positions strategically? That's leverage. Now, if someone from the Iranian administration was being interviewed by a talking head in Iran, wouldn't they say that your strikes are illegal? I mean, the president threatening to, commit war crimes by blowing up, energy facilities, the electrical grid, bridges, civilian infrastructure, desalination plants. Oh, okay.
Look, we have to take a step back here. I mean, this is like the Somali pirates with cruise missiles. I mean, they are desperate in the sense that now we're attacking ships from Panama, from Cyprus, from Singapore. A number of civilian mariners have been killed. And at the end of the day, the president has decided, and he is going to see this through, that the Iranian regime cannot and will not have a nuclear weapon, but also they cannot illegally, in this kind of terrorist fashion, hold the rest of the world's economies hostage.
You raise assets. I want to ask you about the assets. NBC News is reporting the Pentagon is actually rationing some defense weaponry amid diminishing supplies. Is America backing away from a larger military attack because its military stockpile has been depleted?
Well, look, we have to take a step back here in that a lot of stockpiles were depleted, not only from what we gave Ukraine over the last however many years, 4 or 5 years, and the administration inherited, Secretary Hegseth inherited a depleted situation from not only Ukraine, but also the ongoing fight with the Houthis under the Biden administration and a depleted military under the Biden administration. So they have decided, one, they're going to new types of munitions, cheaper munitions, new technologies.
So here's a question for anybody in this administration. It's been, 19 months since the inauguration? How much longer are you going to blame the Biden administration? That would be me like saying, I've never recovered from the breakup with my 5th grade girlfriend. Cindy Harwood. Cindy, if you're out there, I still love you. Seriously, how much longer? How much longer are you going to continue to blame people for your incompetence? How about, part of the reason for this background is why would you put service members in any kind of position to fight a war that you were not prepared for? Seriously. Why would you do that? You want to continue to blame? There was reports that we were not necessarily, I know. No, she broke my heart. I know. Anyway, it's a long story. I'm over it. I had to go cry in the corner with my $6 million man lunchbox and then go sit under the monkey bars because I was so depressed in my Wrangler jeans and my snap button, the Western pattern shirt with the snap ivory buttons, coming home crying. Anyway, there was reporting before the war even started that we had a reduced stockpile for some reason. But, again, this is led by the best and the most competent Department of Defense in the world, said no one ever. All right.
but also with these new defense budgets, rebuilding our great military. However,
but you acknowledge
I want to be clear.
No, do you acknowledge they're depleted though at this moment?
I want to be crystal clear. The U.S. military, and I've verified this every which way, has everything that it.
You verified it with who? You know the analogy that I've given you guys? Like when we say the coyote is standing outside of the chicken coop, standing guard, and the farmer says, everything okay there? The coyote's like, yep, totally. I got it. We're all good. Nothing to see here. So what did you do, Mike? You asked the Pentagon? The Pentagon who's going to tell you what? Oh, yeah, we are totally depleted. We don't have whatever. We don't have what we need. You think they're going to tell you that? Okay.
Needs to conduct this campaign as effectively as it needs to be.
I was born at night, but not last night. That's a seriously bad dad joke.
And I have to tell you, the people that are leaking this nonsense deserve to be in jail.
Well,
wait a second. So the free press, right? So we should be in jail for reporting now. We've heard that. Now, and I know that there's a lot of our MAGA friends that are in the chat today. So this is an example, friends, of another attempt for this administration to violate constitutional rights. So people reporting on things should be in jail. Now, we know that they tried to subpoena New York Times journalists because of the reporting regarding Qatar Force One, because they didn't have enough security equipment. And then the judge said, nope. Yeah, no, that's just dumb. You can't do that. So they withdrew their subpoenas. So here we are again. Who are we putting in jail exactly? How about we put you in jail, Mike, for fucking lying to the American public every single day? How about we put Pete Hegseth and you in jail for your fucking incompetence? How about we put you guys in jail for sharing classified information on Signal? You guys, you know what you'd be better off doing? You all should just get trapper keepers. And you should put all your stuff in trapper keepers, all folded up, because within the trapper keeper, you have the individual little trapper folders. Like you could put war plans in one, you could put weapon stockpiles in another, you could put how much hair gel does Pete Hegseth use in the third, and then you guys could just pass that around. It would be more secure. Anyway.
Let me ask you, because you're saying they deserve to be in jail. Is that something the administration's going to pursue, putting people in jail?
Well, we have a number of leak investigations going on. I'll defer that to the Department of Justice. But here's the point. The point is the U.S. military has conducted a phenomenally successful campaign. We have never, as you know, I'm a veteran by background. We have never maintained this kind of air superiority, sea superiority, with unfettered access over Iran right now.
Mr. Ambassador, a lot of people are very interested in the timeline of this because President Trump had initially said that this conflict would last for a matter of weeks, 5 to 6 weeks. He said we are now at the 5-month mark. Will this war be over by the new year?
Well, first, this war has been going on for 47 years. These attacks on Americans.
No, Mike. No. I am so sick of that fucking line of bullshit that this has been going on for 47 years. Why don't you explain that to the families of the 18 service members who've lost their lives? Some of them are 19, 20, 25 years old. They weren't even born. So no, that's a fucking bullshit lie. I'm sick of this fucking crap.
This war has been going on for 47 years. These attacks on Americans,
not in this,
of course, not necessarily this intensity, but at some level.
Never mind, not necessarily. It just wasn't. Okay? No.
Iran has been at war with the United States. Heck, I was just looking at old video of under the Obama and then the Biden administration when they had the Obama administration when they had sailors on their knees. Oh,
we have 4 Biden references and 1 Obama reference so far inside of 6 minutes. Cool.
When they seized one of our boats and captured them. So
okay, you say that they had service members on their knees. Mike, I will bring you back to the infamous meeting of the war criminal Vladimir Putin when he came to Anchorage or Alaska. I think it was Anchorage, actually. Anchorage, Alaska. The red carpet ceremony were those interesting photographs of U.S. service members on their knees in uniform tucking in the red carpet so the war criminal could walk off the plane. You want to talk about that? Probably not. As by the way, an extension of the Do Something tour that we're going to add, Bitch Boys of America. And I'm going to put Mike Walls on the list now because the list is growing. Of course, it starts with Mike Johnson. He's in his own category. We've got a few others, but Chad Curtis is a bitch boy. Mike Walls is a bitch boy. Obviously, Pete Hegseth is, and others. But that's going to be a little side project, our spinoff, if you will. Okay.
So look, we have to take a step back from a diplomatic standpoint. And of course, I'm here as the UN ambassador. The talks with Lebanon are progressing in a way that's historic. Syria is moving in the right direction. We just had the Iraqi foreign minister, not only here in the Oval Office, but then he goes to Houston and signs new oil deals. Our Gulf Arabs have never been more aligned with us. Iran is diplomatically isolated, economically isolated, and militarily devastated. They've never been so weak, and we're negotiating from a position of strength.
But very quickly, do you anticipate this conflict will be concluded by the new year?
Hang on one second. I have to fix something real quick. Hang on. Stand by. Stand by. Okay, we're back.
I'm not going to put some kind of timeline on it. The president has all options on the table, and he is exercising both diplomatic, economic, and military to achieve a very clear strategic aim. And that's what's different. The wars of my generation, we had policy drift. Here, the president is very focused.
This was an incredibly somber week, as you know, for the country. 4 U.S. service members were killed in Iranian attacks. President Trump, Defense Secretary
First Lieutenant Tyler James Feehan, 25. Staff Sergeant Michael Emmanuel Swinton, 30. Sergeant Angel S. Rampersad, 28. And then Private Isabella Gonzalez, 19.
Pete Hegseth, others attended the dignified transfer at Dover Air Force Base on Wednesday. Should the country brace for more American lives to be lost in this conflict, Mr. Ambassador?
Every man and woman who signs up, as I have and so many others, to go serve, knows of that eventual possibility. And my heart breaks for those families receiving the worst news of their lives.
Give me a break.
As does the president, all the way down the chain of command. Where I am thankful as a veteran is that we finally have a president who has said enough is enough. The Iranian regime has killed thousands of American soldiers, has threatened our nation.
Thousands of American soldiers? Really? Should we fact check that, Mike? We will.
Neighbors, has threatened the region and threatened the United States, and no more. And if they are willing to do this, if they were willing to build a massive conventional shield, which is what they were trying to do, you mentioned the issue of munitions and interceptors. Imagine if the president had just let this go like all of his predecessors had, and years from now they had tens, if not hundreds of thousands of these rockets and drones, and then went to breakout, which is what we know their plan was. But in terms of casualties, our heart breaks for them. But we're not going to take this low-level warfare, whether it's taking our people hostage as they've done, or attacking civilian shipping, or attacking our neighbors, or attacking U.S. assets around the world. Enough is enough.
Just a moment ago, you mentioned Saudi Arabia. So I do want to ask you about this deal with Saudi Arabia. The U.S. signed this deal with Saudi Arabia this week. It would effectively support creating a civilian nuclear program for the Saudis, then less than 24 hours after the deal was announced. The president insisted the agreement would only go through if Saudi agreed to sign the Abraham Accords, something that Saudi Arabia has rejected. What is the status of the deal? Is it going forward?
Well, we've been in discussion with Saudi Arabia on normalization with Israel or entering the Abraham Accords way back into the first Trump administration. So I don't think that should surprise anyone.
But what's the status
in terms of the deal? But in terms of the deal, I want to be very clear on a couple of things. One, we haven't sold our nuclear technology in terms of small modular reactors, micro reactors, large reactors in many, many decades. President Trump signed an executive order last year revitalizing the nuclear industry. Whether it's the Saudis or others, they could go, as many countries have, to the Russians for nuclear technology, to the Chinese for nuclear technology. Finally, we are reasserting.
So then why didn't they? If they could have done that all along, why didn't they? Well, instead, we want to do it. Okay.
Our technology on the world stage. So they had options. They went with us. They're going with American companies, American workers, but there is no enrichment envisioned in this plan.
Quickly, is the deal off or on right now as we have this conversation?
Well, the president was clear. I mean, the tenets of the deal are in place, but we are in discussions with the Saudis about coming into normalization with Israel.
The U.S.
But I want to be
did
very
sign
clear.
the
There was
deal,
a,
though, right?
There was
The
a
U.S.
lot of,
signed the deal.
Well, Secretary Wright and the Saudi energy minister have signed that, but it has to be implemented, and the president's put.
See, this is the fucking wordplay that drives me fucking crazy. Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, it hasn't technically been signed. Oh, yeah, but well, they signed it. It just hasn't been implemented yet. Got it. When you sign a contract, let's use the sports as an analogy. If Shohei Ohtani signs a contract, that means he's got a new contract, and the Dodgers are then responsible to pay him however millions of dollars he makes annually. So you've signed this deal. Is it contingent upon something? Then perhaps why did you sign it if it was contingent on something? Okay.
Put an important condition on
You know,
that.
the U.S. is fighting a war with Iran over its nuclear program.
Yeah.
Why reward Saudi Arabia with a nuclear program now?
Good question.
Huge difference.
Is
I
there-
mean, massive difference that is
Really?
important for people to understand.
Really?
You have the largest sponsor of terrorism in the world.
Hey, Mike, just as a reminder for Mike, for many, you were probably a little bit young. Saudi financed 9/11. We know that. So tell us again, who's the biggest sponsor of terrorism? I just wanted to remind you of that, Mike. I mean, you're the UN ambassador. You probably should know that. So you can gaslight people all you want, but not around here, because this is the smartest chat on TikTok, and we will fucking expose your punk ass, bitch boy. You know what, Mike? You might be moving up the list. We're going to make a calendar, and I'm going to go to your office. I'm going to ask you to sign it. Say, Mike, would you put to fax, Mike Walls, it's a pleasure being number 2 bitch boy.
In Iran. You have them refusing to allow the inspections. Contrast that, by the way, there's a deal in place with the UAE.
But could you
they
set
allow
off an arms race?
They allow the
Could you set off an arms race?
Yeah,
a nuclear arms race?
Yeah, you
in
could.
the
No, what will
regions?
set off a nuclear arms race, Kirsten, is
Oh my
if
God.
Iran tests a nuclear weapon, Saudi has made it clear they will get a nuclear weapon. This is civilian nuclear power, which is perfectly acceptable. The UAE has a
Civilian nuclear power, which is exactly what Iran had during the JCPOA. We're never going to lose that, okay? We cannot allow this bullshit to continue. Our friends on the right and this administration can say whatever the fuck they want. This is a big fucking money grab. This is so companies like Westinghouse can make money. Of course, the president's going to clear the way for his friends to make money, for himself and his family to make money. This is fucking bullshit.
plant. In fact, even Iran has a Russian-provided plant. The difference is Iran is enriching to weapons level that it doesn't need to do.
Says who? Says who?
Iran is burying it, which no other country in the world does.
Says who? Oh, we do. We bury it in like the New Mexico desert. What are you fucking talking about?
Hundreds of feet underground, under hardened military infrastructure. Iran is trying to shield it with a conventional drone and missile shield. And Iran has stated if and when they get a nuclear weapon, they will not only use it on Israel, that they will threaten the rest of the world to export their revolution. That is
Never been said. Keep in mind, Mike, all right, there was a fatwa that existed with a previous Ayatollah stating that we have no interest. A fatwa would be like an Islam. I don't want to incorrectly speak this, but from what I know, it would be like a religious doctrine, a fatwa stating that we have no interest in pursuing a nuclear weapon. It's as ironclad as if the Pope issued something or some Christian religious leader. So the Ayatollah said, we have no interest, we have no desire based on our own faith that we are not going to pursue a nuclear weapon. So what ends up happening is that we take out that Ayatollah. His son, who's much more radicalized, I don't know the current status of the fatwa, but stop fucking lying to people. We bury our spent fuel rods in our country. So stop.
They different than an American company selling a civilian nuclear plant to an ally.
Just to put a button on this, bottom line, the deal will not be fully implemented until Saudi Arabia agrees to.
Hey, Bobby Wyckoff, I'm just really curious about something. Did you wake up in the morning and decide you wanted to make a comment like that? Because it's really interesting that you would be so triggered and so insecure in your manhood that you would have to make a comment like that. It's really weird, man. I mean, I seek help, bro. That's all I can say. It's okay. You know, it's really okay. It's really okay for weak men like you to express feelings that are other than anger and lust. I know you're obsessed. I see you in here a lot. I appreciate that. I mean, seriously. Why wouldn't you be? It's okay, friend. It's okay, friend. You can join the club too. Just, try being honest with your feelings. It's really fine.
To sign on to the Abraham Accords.
That's the president's position.
Okay. All right. Ambassador Mike Waltz, thank you.
Okay, that's a whole bunch of fucking nonsense. So I just want people to understand something. I'm gonna read to you the details. I might have done this before. I think I probably did, but I want to read to you the details of the Saudi deal that apparently we're gonna sign. I have it someplace. Hang on a second. Everybody do this for little Mikey. Okay. So as you heard Mike Walls talk about, you guys have probably heard the story about this. The Trump administration announced a landmark U.S.-Saudi civil nuclear cooperation agreement last week. The agreement, commonly referred to as Section 123 under the U.S. Atomic Energy Act, is one of the most significant changes to U.S. non-proliferation policy in decades. According to the U.S. Department of Energy, the U.S. will cooperate with Saudi Arabia on developing a civilian nuclear energy program. Saudi Arabia would be able to purchase U.S. nuclear technology and potentially reactors, including those made by American companies such as Westinghouse. The agreement could permit Saudi Arabia to enrich uranium domestically rather than requiring all nuclear fuel to come from abroad. This is the most controversial aspect of the agreement. I will remind you, friends, and I will remind people like little Mikey who was in here earlier, that's what Iran was permitted to do under the JCPOA, and that is what they were doing. Uranium enrichment has dual purposes. At low enrichment, between 3.3 and 3.3 and 5%, it fuels civilian nuclear reactors. Friends, the JCPOA capped enrichment at 3.67%. And they honored the agreement. We know that because of inspections. There was a couple of times when it comes to heavy water, that they went above their heavy water output. It was caught. It was corrected. There might have been one or two times where they went slightly above 3.67%. IAE caught it. They corrected it. Boom. And then high enrichment, around 90%, can be used in nuclear weapons. You just heard Mike Waltz tell you that they were enriching to weapons grade. There is no evidence of that anywhere. They didn't prior to the JCPOA. They didn't during the JCPOA. They didn't after the JCPOA. Last reporting we had is that, okay, I got a harassment and bullying warning. So friends, I need you all to tap and gift and comment and share like crazy, please. Now would be a great time to check out the gifts in the gift gallery, try to light that up so we can show TikTok that this is a safe space for even people like little Mikey, okay? Anyway, having enrichment capability does not mean, this is a really important statement from the Department of Energy. Having enrichment capability does not mean Saudi Arabia is building a bomb. Now, we could replace Saudi Arabia with Iran. Having enrichment capability does not mean Iran is building a bomb. Do you understand this bullshit? I mean, you guys get it because you're the smartest chat on TikTok. Having enrichment capability, according to the U.S. Department of Energy, as reported by Reuters, having enrichment capability does not mean Saudi Arabia is building a bomb. Having enrichment capability does not mean Iran is building a bomb. But it gives the country technology that could shorten the path if it ever chose to do so. So now we're doing the same thing that we were told. We're never going to allow Iran to have a boom boom, but we're going to give it to Saudi Saudi and MBS and the royal family, the ones that financed 9/11, et cetera, the ones that executed Jamal Khashoggi, New York Times journalist or Wall Street or Washington Post journalist, have done horrible atrocities against their own citizens. But we're fine with that, right? Because of the Jared Kushner investment fund, because Trump is up his buddies with MBS, because they probably have leverage on him too. I guess that's totally fine. Nothing to see here. For decades, the United States generally encouraged partners to adopt what's known as the gold standard, an agreement in which countries voluntarily forego uranium enrichment and spent fuel reprocessing. The best known example is the 2009 US-UAE nuclear agreement. According to Reuters and the AP, the Saudi agreement does not require Saudi to permanently renounce enrichment, marking a notable departure from that earlier approach. Here's some of the safeguards. This is the interesting part to me. The agreement includes a bilateral safeguards arrangement and the International Atomic Energy Agency oversight. However, whenever there's a however, it's just like when you apologize to somebody, then say but. However, oftentimes after the comma, after however, it's usually not good. However, one major criticism is that Saudi Arabia is not required to adopt IAEA protocols. So explain that to me. Explain to me how we had a bilateral safeguard agreement during the JCPOA. How is it that we had the International Atomic Energy Agency oversight over Iran's nuclear program, but yet Saudi doesn't have to have that? Because that gives it that those protocols would give inspectors broad authority to conduct inspections and detect undeclared nuclear activities. Many arms control experts view the additional protocols as an important verification tool, but yet we're fine with that. The administration officials have argued the agreement keeps Saudi Arabia aligned with the United States rather than China or Russia, strengthens the U.S.-Saudi strategic partnership, creates opportunities for American nuclear companies, as we always say, and then help Saudi Arabia diversify its energy mix away from oil. Right. Hey, you know about that? See, we just made a deal with Saudi because they get to buy our nuke stuff. Wait a second. Are you okay with that? You're fine with Saudi Arabia getting, well, they're our ally. Well, don't forget, they're the ones that funded 9/11. Well, that don't matter. That's a long time ago. It's kind of what it feels like. Critics argue it weakens longstanding U.S. non-proliferation standards, encourage other Middle Eastern countries to seek enrichment capabilities, talk about like, an arms race. If Saudi can get one, why can't Qatar? Why can't other Middle Eastern countries? Why can't any country for that matter? All right. It encourages other Middle Eastern countries to seek enrichment capabilities, increases the risk of a regional nuclear competition, particularly given that MBS has previously stated that the Saudi Arabia would seek nuclear weapons if Iran obtained one. All right, the agreement has been transmitted to Congress to review under the Atomic Energy Act. Congress has a statutory review period. It can attempt to block the agreement, but under current law, doing so would generally require enough votes to overcome a president's veto if the president supports the deal. What the fuck are we doing? That's all I want to know. All right, I've got a few people that have requested. I don't know if you're in the box and you need to be in the box. If you wouldn't mind just drop it out, I'd appreciate that. Good morning, Dan. How are you? Dan? Dan's just hanging out. Let me just fix this real quick. Okay. Check that out. Please, if you guys wouldn't mind just revisiting the gift gallery. There's a couple of new items up there. Thank you all very, very much. And don't forget, we are crowdfunded here, Cash App, PayPal, Venmo. Coming up at 10 o'clock this morning, we're going to spin our wheel again and award last week's contest winner an item of their choice from the merch store. Okay. Let me see. I think that's all I wanted to play on that particular story. I just think it's ironic, right, that every single day this administration has come out that we cannot allow Iran to have a nuke. I don't think anybody is in disagreement. I don't want anybody. I don't think nuclear weapons should exist, period. I don't think anybody should have them. What the fuck's the point? we start lobbing ICBMs at each other, and I don't have to worry about what's in my fridge. Sorry, I cleaned up a tree in my backyard yesterday. I was supposed to have a little bit of help, but it didn't work out, so I did it all myself. And I'm sore because I'm not getting any younger. Anyway, I'm trying to square this. Like, I'm trying to be objective here, but it's impossible. How do we create a scenario where we are going through this exercise, allowing more countries to have access to nuclear programs? Now we can sit here and talk about it, whether it's from a from an energy perspective or whatever, but it's just crazy. It's nuts. It's fucking stupid. And I'm so fucking tired of the lies. I am so tired. Shifty says on YouTube with the super chat, name one attack on American soil carried out by Iran. Oh, wait. Cue the Jeopardy theme song on infinite loop. Great point. Hearts in chat for Shifty. Thank you, bro. Appreciate you very much. It's a perfect point. Now they're going to try to justify this by saying that Iran is the number one state sponsor of terrorism. That is debatable. I would say it's the United States, quite frankly, because we arm the fucking world. Because those terrorists that are using these weapons or technology, they're using our shit, along with Israel, etc. But again, nothing to see here. Okay, is there anything else I wanted to cover on that? I don't think so. The claim is that they want Saudi Arabia to sign on to the Abraham Accords. Israel is not interested in partnership with Saudi. Saudi's likely not interested in partnerships with Israel, etc. So what the fuck are we doing? But again, Trump supporters, they'll sign on because they'll just follow along blindly. But you've now got members of the Republican Party kind of saying, you know what, this is not a good thing. This is not a good thing. All right, I'll bring a couple of other people up. I've got some people that have requested. Again, if you're in the box and you don't mean to be, please just drop out. Appreciate you. Good morning, Kristen. How are you today?
Hi, Willie Jimmy.
Okay. Same issue. So, friends, if you're in the box, so here, I don't know. I know other creators are having the same issue. If you look down the bottom of the screen, you see like the pink and blue person or teal person. I'm a little colorblind on that sort of color spectrum, so I'm not sure if it's blue or teal, whatever it might be. Anyway, if it's grayed out, that means you're in the box, which means you've requested up. If it's still blue and pink, you're not. So if you can just take a look down, and if you realize it's gray, it's teal. Okay, thank you. This is like green or tealish. Anyway, doesn't matter. I digress. Squirrel. If it's grayed out, that means you're in the box. If it's not grayed out, that means that you're not in the box. And if you don't want to be in the box, then let it be grayed out. Okay? All right. I'll bring some other people up. Don't go into Steve's box unless you consent. Unless I give you the consent. I'm correct? Cool. Squirrel. All right. Let me adjust that. Okay, we're good. Sorry. A lot going on here. I'm excited today. There's a lot going on. All right. I wanted to kind of go back to a couple of the stories. I think we covered that. I'm going to get into some data today regarding ABs, because over the weekend, you continue to see people who are just completely lying about statistics when it comes to women's reproductive health care. We're going to talk about the Epstein files next. I'm also going to spend some time today only because I want to play some sound from Nick Fuentes and Elon Musk. Now, I don't normally do that, but the reason I'm choosing to do that, friends, is because, as we've discussed many, many times, the Trump administration will eventually die off. But the stench of right-wing fascist rhetoric will exist unless we address it. It's almost like, like the crop dusting. Like you go into the room, you fart, then you leave and close the door. So that lingering fucking stench will still be around. So we need to know who the enemy is. The enemy are people like Elon. The enemy are people like Nick Fuentes. So I'm choosing not to platform them, right? To your favorite people, Millie. Exactly. The reason I'm choosing to platform them is because we need to know who they are and what they are. So there's I might as well get into that now. So he spoke with the editor-in-chief, Zany Minton, who's the editor-in-chief from The Economist, and they touched on a wide range of topics. So I'm going to play some sections of this interview because he jumps around. He talks about right-wing populism. He talks about AI. He talks about the denial of why people hate him so much. So I'm just going to get into it now. So here we go.
I think AI may exceed the sum of human intelligence in around 5 years.
In 5 years?
Roughly 5 years is my guess. So there really won't be anything that AI can't do better than humans, apart from being human, perhaps.
At a more prosaic level, what will life
Think about that statement. There's nothing that AI can do that humans can't other than being humans. This is like, this is like fucking Skynet shit, man.
be like?
The most likely outcome is an age of amazing abundance, where anyone can have anything they can think of. This may sound preposterous, but well, here we are in 2026. Let's see where we stand in 2036. Now, of course, there are things that could derail this, like a massive global thermonuclear war or something like that. But assuming that there's not World War III, I think we're headed for an age of amazing abundance. So this is, I guess, a message of optimism.
Amazing abundance for who? The amazing abundance for who?
And excitement about the future.
You're sure that humans will no longer be in control in 10 years' time?
I think it is unlikely, in the same way that if you had a vastly more, if the difference in intelligence between AI and humans is vastly greater than the difference in intelligence between AI and chimpanzees, it's hard to imagine that the chimpanzees would be in charge.
I'm really
And
struck
we
by
are
this.
essentially an evolved form of chimpanzee.
Wow.
So it wasn't that long ago that we were swinging through the trees, eating bananas in the jungle. And we still eat bananas.
You said there was a 10 to 20% chance of killer robots wiping out humanity.
Yes.
So you sounded worried then.
A 10 to 20% chance that killer robots are going to wipe out humanity. That's the quote. A 10 to 20% chance that Skynet is going to show up at your fucking door with red eyes. Or if you're Gen Xer like me, the coolest generation, you watch Battlestar Galactica and you had the that's what's going to happen.
Now you seem
Cool. I don't have to worry about retirement. Good to know.
very relaxed about it. Have you changed your view?
I still think there's risk associated with AI and robots. It's not zero. I guess I've come to my sort of philosophical conclusion is to look on the bright side. I can't see any way to.
Yeah, Elon, you'll just hop on one of your rockets and go to the fucking moon base that you're building. You're fine. You're totally fine. It's the rest of us that are going to be hanging out with the cockroaches.
Really stop this incredible momentum of AI and robots. And at times I sort of think, well, perhaps, even if there was a stop button, we probably shouldn't press it because the most likely outcome is incredible abundance for all.
That's what I thought, actually. It struck me that now
I'm still trying to get to that whole incredible abundance for all. Obviously, the people that are heavily invested in AI technology, which is propped up significantly by our stock market these days, along with crypto and everything else. So those people will be fine. So when you hear these stories, right, about, Ivanka and Jared, just, wow, I didn't know this island was here, and building bunkers. And you hear about people like Zuckerberg and Warren Buffett and Bezos building these like underground networks. I think they're all fucking nuts, quite frankly, but it is something that we should probably keep our eyes peeled to. Not here fear mongering, only reporting the news.
you seem to have decided it's inevitable. Let's hope for the best and go for the ride.
Yeah, I mean, yes, pretty much. Let's enjoy the ride. Is I think my philosophy at this point. Because I mean, honestly, there seems to be just an inexorable progress here in AI and in robots. That
But
even if I wanted to stop it, I couldn't.
Do you think there's still a 10 to 20% chance that killer
Can I get a robot to scoop the litter box? That'd be good to know.
10 to 20% chance that killer robots mean the end of humanity? That's a high P doom, as they say.
Well, in the long run, we're all dead, of course. So I mean,
I mean,
like according to the standard model of physics, the end of the universe is a long, boring, sort of thin gray soup of gradual cooling. I mean, it's sort of the heat death of the universe is called. So now, if the heat death of the universe is in fact the outcome for our reality, then it really is all about the journey. Because the destination is terrible.
Yeah, but 10 years is not very... yeah, I get that, but that could be a long way
It's a
ahead.
very long way.
And
Very,
you're basically
very,
saying,
very long way.
if it's 10 to 20% in 10 years, would you go into one of your rockets if you thought there was a 10 to 20% chance of it blowing up and killing you?
Yes, but
That's a great question. Would you? We use this analogy a lot, right? Here's another scenario. We talk about the red M&M, right? In regards to it's all men until it's no men. I'm going to use the same analogy. You got a bowl of 100 M&Ms. 10 of them, speaking of cat litter, 10 of them are pieces of cat shit painted to look exactly like a red M&M. Would you reach your hand in the bowl and eat one? I think most people would not. That's the analogy for women. We try to make this analogy for women out in the world. How would you know of the men you're speaking to which one of them is a piece of cat shit? You have to assume that they all are. So she asks the question, like, would you jump into your rocket? Would you jump into your rocket if you knew there was a 10 to 20% chance it was going to blow up? No.
yes, but
Yes, you would.
but let's say you can't do anything about it. I guess the only thing we can try to do is minimize the probability of the bad outcome. But trying to stop the intelligence in robots. I mean, for the longest time, I declined to participate in AI, or was created OpenAI as essentially a counterweight to Google, because at the time they had more or less a monopoly on AI. In creating OpenAI and then having Anthropic spin out of that, and now currently Anthropic's the leader in AI. I mean, these actions have actually resulted in knock-on effects that accelerated AI, which wasn't really my intention. So it just seems like all roads lead to acceleration of AI. So then I'm like, okay, well, you can just sort of be sad about it or join the club, I suppose.
Well, you've certainly joined the club.
Yeah.
You've definitely joined the club.
If you can't beat them, join them,
Wow.
A number of the other leaders of model makers have been pushing for different ways to try and minimize the risks. Just last week, Demis Hassabis came out with a proposal for a private public regulator. Do you think you guys should be working more actively to get something in place to control the risks, or do you think that's impossible too?
Yeah. My recommendation to Demis, because I talked to him for a few hours before he published his piece, was that the most immediate thing that we could do is to have the leading AI companies at least just meet or have some sort of call once every few weeks, and just discuss any safety and security issues.
But why haven't you done that yet? I mean, you don't all like each other very much.
Yeah,
but you're not all. I mean, you're also all competing, right? You all want to be first.
Yes, but that's where I think the competitors can keep each other honest. So meaning like,
okay.
If I think it's quite difficult for...
Dude, it's easy to say that. You're the richest person in the world. And by the way, I was debating with someone over the weekend on Elon Musk's contribution to this person we were speaking to was obviously a massive fan of Elon. And we determined, I think it was Hector and I actually, Hector, if you're in the chat, thank you for that conversation, bro. We determined that Elon paid 1% in taxes on an individual basis, and his company paid like 0. And this person's like, that's fine. He paid $11 billion. Yeah, but it's $11 billion, which was 1% of his, he was taxed at 1%. And people continue to fucking defend it. Why? Why?
Someone in the government who doesn't have a deep technical understanding and isn't driving the frontier of AI to know whether something should be released or not. However, the competitors, I think, can, if given sort of a week or two to review a new model, can highlight issues and have an incentive to keep all the competitors have an incentive to keep the others honest.
So you'd have a system where the model makers would check each other's work. If there was something that worried them, you'd tell the government.
Yeah.
The government would then think. Okay.
If there's something that was worrisome and that company was not doing anything to address that risk, then that would be the moment for government to step in and take action, which is literally what
How
occurred
soon
with
does all
Mythos.
this have to happen?
Yeah, really. Good question.
Well, I think it'd be good to do that. I think immediately, really.
Yeah, that's what people keep telling me. We have to get this some kind of system in the next 6 months because of the pace at which the models are improving.
Yeah, 6 months is a long time.
So you think shorter than that?
Well, I mean, there's so many AI breakthrough announcements, sometimes multiple per day.
Yeah.
I mean, how many were there last week?
A lot.
I lost track.
Yeah, a lot.
Again, I hope you don't mind that I'm taking you through this because I just think we need to be prepared for this kind of shit.
So you basically, whether it's Demis's proposal or others, you need to get together and get this set up kind of now, it sounds like you're telling me.
Yeah, I would recommend that we at least have some sort of informal, weekly or biweekly call and that, like I said, just that there's maybe a week or 2 weeks of early access by competitors. And this is why I think the incentives work, is because if competing companies, I think, are likely to understand if something is a security risk, and they're not going to be shy about highlighting that their competitors' models should be delayed in release.
You guys don't much like each other, and you don't much trust each other. You're insulting each other on social media constantly. So do you think you can do that with people that you dislike, that where there seems to be such kind of personal vitriol between some of these leaders?
Yes. Well, I'm not a fan of Sam Altman, because if you started a nonprofit that was meant to be an open source AI company and owned by the world, and it somehow got turned into an $800 billion for-profit company with closed source, I think you'd be like, well, wait a second, that's the exact opposite of what I donated the money for. That's my issue. I think it's a legitimate one.
That is so kind of you for somebody to make a comment and said, I hope you stop breathing today. That just warms my heart. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
And then Dario, I think, also is not a fan of Sam Altman because he felt, in fact, the reason the Anthropic team left OpenAI is because they didn't trust Sam Altman. Otherwise, Anthropic wouldn't exist. They would still be at OpenAI. I think Dario is a very principled person. He cares about things a lot. Cares about the future of the world. And I think...
Okay. So I think Elon Musk is a madman. I think he is in denial about his status in the world, whether it be because of his heavy drug use, whether it be because of whatever it might be. I'm not going to judge his issues with substance use disorder, etc., but he's a lunatic. Okay, that conversation that's nothing. That's just on the AI side. Now you're going to hear him talk about he believes the populist message. He believes the radicals are the ones that are on the left. Okay? That's what he believes. Here you go.
You support not just the populist right, but the far right. In fact, very fringe parties in some countries.
No, I support the normal people.
He believes the people that are on the far right, the fringe, in his word, are the normal people. Okay.
Okay.
What do you call the far right? Falsely.
You think is the normal person. Okay.
Yes. Literally, you could go back 10 or 15 years, and these these policies were completely normal. In fact, one of the tricks that I think is funny. One thing that's quite funny is to like take a speech from Obama and Hillary, and then go to someone and say, who's sort of on the sort of what I call the lunatic left, and say, what do you think of the speech by Trump? I'm like, oh wow, he's the worst person ever. Actually, that was a speech by Obama, or actually, that was a speech by Hillary.
That's fucking bullshit. Okay? Now, like we always talk about, people who don't think something is racist are likely a racist. People who think that something, who say that, well, that wasn't transphobic, are likely transphobic. Elon Musk is a full-blown fucking Yahtzee. Let's call it what it is. So he thinks those are the normal people. I think he really believes this shit. I think he really believes that people who believe what he believes are the normal people. Those that support a European culture, right? That's what he believes. He believes this shit. He believes that people who share Yahtzee rhetoric and sentiment, talk about the Great Replacement Theory, all these kinds of things, he believes those are the normal people. Like I said to start this segment, right? This is the stench. This is the crop duster. This is the stench that's going to linger unless we address it. I'm going to move from Elon to Nick Fuentes. These people are still there. Nick Fuentes is a young guy. What is he, like 25, 26? Elon's not that old. These people are not going anywhere, okay? This is the new world order. Don't forget, people on the right have been convinced that the global elites they consider the left are the new world order. It's these fuckers. It's these people. He genuinely believes that fascist, authoritarian, Yahtzee rhetoric is normal. Okay.
Right.
I agree. No, I agree that the center of gravity in this country has shifted. Certainly, the Democratic Party shifted to the left. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about people like Rupert Lowe. I'm
fringe
talking
right,
about
please.
people.
It's actually just normal people. It's just normal people. It's just normal people. And and here are the principles. And tell me which of these sound terrible. That we should have secure borders. That we should have safe cities. That we should have sensible spending. Which of those three are
Well, that's rhetoric, Elon, because the left believes that we should have safe cities. The left does not believe we should have open borders. Give me a break.
Are far right
Those
fringe.
three- no,
And I would like to just admonish you and the media for the absurd characterization of the far right. It is false and misleading and nonsense.
Really?
Please keep this part in.
We'll keep all of this in, but let me
Don't cut this part.
Let me push back on that. Let me push back on that because
it
you have
nonsense.
Elon, you have what is it? Close to 250 million followers on X.
Yeah, because I'm
You say things like,
a popular guy.
quote, civil war in Britain is inevitable. Just a question
On the current
of when.
trends, yes.
I mean, when were you last in the UK?
So the statement he made on X was that civil war in Britain is inevitable. Millie, I saw you in here. Eric is probably here as well. So that's inevitable. Then I want you to hear this next part because this is the tell right here, right? So she asks him the question about, when was the last time you were there?
The UK.
A few years ago.
Exactly. So I live there. I'm there the whole time. That is nonsense.
You live at a cloistered existence.
No, I don't actually. And the numbers also disprove what you say.
What numbers?
All the numbers about crime. London is a much safer city than any city in the United States. Violent crime in the UK is not where you think it is. In fact, it's coming down. You have painted, and because you have so many followers, so many Americans believe it, a kind of view that Europe in...
That part right there. 250 million followers on his own platform. He shares this kind of shit. Hasn't been in the UK in like he said, 4 or 5 years? People fucking believe this nonsense. People believe. We have worked really hard in this space. This has been my personal mission to try to do as much as we can to dispel misinformation, disinformation, and propaganda. It ain't easy. We work on it every fucking day. I mean, I'm like, I go through these exercises. Like, what the fuck am I reading? And where's it coming from? You go down these fucking rabbit holes. This goes back to his justification of far right bullshit being normal people. He genuinely thinks a Yahtzee fucking salute is normal. He thinks conversations about eugenics is normal. He thinks conversations about all the radicalized, Islamic fundamentalists are going to take over the world and cause a civil war. It's fucking maddening, and this shit is not going away. We are the ones that have to address it. We're the ones that have to say, no. No. He's got 250 million followers. He can say whatever the fuck he wants. People choose to follow him. He can say whatever he wants on his own platform. He spews lies. He spews hate. It is disturbing, to say the least. I'm going to back up a little bit so we can hear this section again.
All the numbers about crime. London is a much safer city than any city in the United States. Violent crime in the UK is not where you think it is. In fact, it's coming down. You have painted, and because you have so many followers, so many Americans believe it, a kind of view that Europe and the UK are kind of, overrun with terrifying Muslim immigrants. There's rape on every corner. There's a sort of civilizational
I
destruction.
haven't said any of those things. If you have,
Yes, you have.
a large and rapidly growing group of people whose beliefs are antithetical to Western beliefs, at some point.
Elon, your views are antithetical to Western beliefs. You're the radical. You're the extremist. You're the violent rhetoric spewer. You're the fearmonger. You're the hate-filled fucknut. That's you. When you get up in the morning and you look in the mirror and you can't see your reflection, that should tell you a lot.
There will be a reckoning. They will try to implement their views, and those who oppose it will oppose it, and that's what you call civil war. And obviously, this is the trend. And you absolutely do live in a cloistered existence. And if you'd like, we can go on a tour of Britain.
Sure.
And we
I'd
can go
be
on a
very
walking
happy
tour.
to come on a tour of Britain.
And you will see
You
for
come
yourself.
see my country that I live.
Interesting that he says that. This is the point. He is so fucking confident in his bullshit, and then he spews it, and she's like, sure, let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Our friend Erica could give him a ride around the country on the wrong side of the road. Either way, doesn't matter. She's like, sure, let's go. Violent crime rates are down. Safe. London is safer than just about any major city in the United States. It's not even close. And he's like, yeah, let's go. I'll show you. And she's like, fine, let's go. He won't. You know what he'll do is he'll find some way. He'll probably use AI. He'll find some way to create some bullshit, and his 250 million followers will find it, and then we'll be on a TikTok live, and somebody will jump up and they'll say, well, hey, here's the video proof. No.
Live in all the time, and you haven't been
Yes,
to a few years
I've been
ago.
there literally 100 times.
But when was the last time?
Literally a few years ago.
You know why this exercises me? Because you have really shaped opinion about the UK, and so
Exactly.
many Americans.
I'm so glad she said that. He has shaped opinion. It's not the data. It's certainly not the facts. It is strictly his opinion, which is shared by so many. And he said he's been there 100 times. Well, she fucking lives there. Oh, I've been there 100 times. Well, I know better than you do. It's just like last week. I'm not sure if Sinjay's here. Just like last week, Sinjay was in discussions with someone telling a Dane about her country. Like, no, you're wrong. And she's like, it's where I live. So no, it's the same thing with him. Capitalizing on the fact that he's got weak ass, mediocre white men for the most part who follow him. And he can tell them whatever the fuck he wants, and they fucking believe it because they see him as iconic. They see him as a legend. Why would he lie to me? Okay.
Come across, and I have conversations with, and they'll be, and I just had one the other day along the order of, oh, London's such a dangerous place. How can you know? There are sort of grooming gangs everywhere. There's violence everywhere. This is a picture that people get from things that you post or that are posted on X. And for example, you're posting for, what was it, 48 hours of Citizen Vigilante, that film which paints a dystopian. I've watched it.
Yes.
It was not fun. I watched it yesterday. It's not a very good movie. But it also paints a dystopian picture of Europe. And it glorifies vigilante violence. It glorifies the murdering of a Muslim immigrant family. I honestly think that it is irresponsible for you to put that up on X.
I think that it's a movie, and it's worth watching.
According to who? You? Okay.
People say that you're a racist. What is the motivation for doing
Yes,
that? Are you fomenting?
my partner is she's half Indian, and my and I have 4 children with her.
Thank you for the tokenization there, Elon. Thank you.
One of them was named after a famous Indian physicist. So I would say I'm not racist, and also,
Again, the analogy. People who say that they are not racist are likely racist. People who say they're not a bigot or transphobic or misogynistic or homophobic or xenophobic or whatever it might be, likely are those things. The coyote and the chicken coop analogy. Everything's fine here. Don't worry. Nothing to see.
if you look at the people that are employed at my companies, we have senior executives of all races. There's I don't think there's any racism there.
Are you anti-Muslim?
I'm against having if people are coming to a country with antithetical views.
What's antithetical?
I am against that. I'm against that. I'm against. I'm against rape and murder. I'm against.
Aren't we all? You worked for the president of the United States, Elon. The twice impeached, four-time indicted, sexually abusing fraudster, convicted felon, name on a list, predator, racist, pedophile, PAB. That guy.
Against the imposition of rules and laws that are contrary to what we've come to accept in the West. And I think it's a crying shame that the sort of traditional media like you don't recognize this.
Why should
Don't
you be able
recognize-
to shape European politics?
Don't recognize what? Don't recognize what? That immigrant communities are far. You are significantly safer, especially as women, significantly safer to live in a community of immigrants than you are of people who look like you, Elon. And by the way, you were undocumented in our country. You broke the law because you overstayed your visa. It's so. This shit. Again, friends, I appreciate you letting me play this. I know it's just disturbing, but this is the stench. This is the lingering fucking smell from the last 10 years that we're going to have to endure. This guy, I want to back up a little bit because I think there's a couple of important things he said in this segment.
In murder, I'm against the imposition of rules and laws that are contrary to what we've come to accept in the West.
Wait, we don't. I'm sorry. Contradictory to what we accept in the West? I don't think anybody in the West accepts rape and murder, which is why we want the president out of office. And we want the entire Republican Party to be taken down because they're loaded with rapists and pedophiles. And in many cases, schmurderers and people who throw hot water at their partners, etc.
And I think it's a crying shame that the sort of traditional media like you don't recognize this.
Why should you be able to shape European politics? You don't even live there.
I think of it as the sort of the West collectively.
But do you see why this makes people think that this man who has all this power, he's the world's richest man, he thinks he has a right to influence our politics? It makes people, it's why, we started this conversation saying superlatives. It's why people loathe you.
Yeah.
Some people do loathe you.
Yes, some people do.
Mm-hmm.
But do you understand why? Do you think what you're doing is helpful for Western democracy?
Maybe some people do loathe me. And that's probably true. I don't care. But the fact that, as you pointed out, 250 million people follow me is that I think a lot more people actually like me than don't.
I would agree with that statement, sadly. The 250 million people that follow him, he thinks, and I think he's right, that more people like him than don't. That's fucking scary shit. So we went down a couple of rabbit holes there. And again, I appreciate you guys letting me go through that. We're going to get into Nick Fuentes next because to me, it's all part of the same fucking messaging. It's just fueled by hatred. It's just fueled by hatred. I always try to imagine myself, what it would be like. I not that I obviously desire to be this way, but what it would be like to have that much hatred towards people that you walk around with every single day. It ages you, for one. No wonder I'm very careful here. I do not want to judge his substance use issues because he obviously has a lot of them. We've seen some of the video of his ketamine addiction, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Be very careful there. So what has it done to his brain? Elon Musk is not an innovator. He was in a position where through a lot of money, he was able to acquire companies, hire smart people around him. Is he a visionary? I don't know. I guess you could say that, sure. But he's got so much power and so much wealth. The dude is worth $1.2 trillion fucking dollars. He's got so much influence. He's got so much fucking power. So much power. We can't just, toss him aside as if he's some fucking clown. I mean, he is, but we have to take that kind of shit seriously. And that's, he is shaping Western politics based on rhetoric. He's capitalizing on the same messaging from the Trump administration and the Heritage Foundation and Stephen Miller and others, saying that the true threat are women. The threat are the immigrants. The threat is the disabled community. The threat is the LGBTQIA community, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Marginalized communities are the threat. I want people to understand that. Here's this guy who's worth $1.1 trillion, who made a ton of fucking money because of the fact that Western economic policy has favored him. Capitalism has worked extremely well. That's part of the problem. He's enriched himself on the backs of everybody else. He comes in, gets his hands in the government, goes after USAID. By the way, USAID was investigating him for, I guess you could say, interesting accounting when it came to Starlink in Ukraine. The Consumer Fraud Protection Bureau also investigating him because of out frauding some of his employees and others. By the way, those two organizations were the ones that took some of the deepest cuts when Doge came in. Funny how that works out. So he uses all this fucking rhetoric. He aligns with the president, whether that was just a tool to get his fingers into our government systems. We have no clue. We have no idea the damage that he's potentially done. We'll find out. That guy. Okay? 250 million followers. I don't walk around with hatred. I think he's a despicable, disgusting human being, but it's not hatred to me. It's just disgust, right? That's him. Well, then we pivot to
What's the feeling?
to Nick Fuentes, because I think this conversation is important as well. So Nick Fuentes sat down with Hunter Biden and others. And I went back and forth as to whether I wanted to play this, but I think it's necessary because from my perspective, they're all sort of connected to the same desire to lie to the American people because they're fueled with hatred towards marginalized groups, in particular Muslims, in particular women, in particular marginalized communities, specifically LGBTQIA. That's part of the issue. I'll pause there briefly to see if there's anybody that's in the box that might want to come up. Once again, friends, if you guys could check your status, if the pink or the blue and pink people are lit up, that means that you're not in the box. If they're grayed out, that means you are in the box. So if you wouldn't mind just paying attention to your box, don't go there. All right. I think we're probably good. I'll try 88. Okay. Don't forget, friends, we are crowdfunded here. If you want to enter our contest, Cash App, PayPal, and Venmo donations of $3 or more gets you entered. And then coming up in about 40 minutes, we'll do our weekly spin of the wheel, and the winner will then get to choose an item from the merch store of their choice. And if you're interested, you can do a co-hosting opportunity with yours truly. I see Jen. Good morning.
Good morning.
Don't you feel all inspired after listening to Elon?
Oh God. Yeah. So inspired. Can you hear it in my voice?
Totally.
I'd like to give you a commercial break,
Okay.
young man.
I'll take one. Thank you.
Sure. Welcome aboard the Facts Still Matter commercial break. Please remain inside the live until Steve returns. Keep both hands on your phone and tap the screen like you're trying to win a stuffed animal worth $6 after spending $80. Secure your follow button, share the live with all friends and family, and please keep politically confused relatives under adult supervision. For maximum algorithm speed, help complete the gift goal, which is located in the purple box above Steve's head. And don't forget about the gift gallery, which you can locate by tapping on the Facts Still Matter logo at the top of the left corner and clicking on the gallery, gift gallery. Right now, we have not completed very many because it's Monday. We need your help. Now, according to Trump's, that's the greatest of all time. However, the smartest chat on TikTok knows better. Larger gifts will qualify you to co-host a segment with Steve because apparently TikTok now lets you purchase a front row seat to the chaos. Venmo, PayPal, and Cash App donations in $3 increments earn entries into Monday's merchandise wheel. $3 gets one entry, $6 gets two. You know, math is still legal for now. MAGA, please break out your calculator. Steve researches and prepares this show as his full-time job, so please support your hardworking ride operator. Thank you for riding Facts Still Matter. After refueling, using the restroom, and securing all loose sarcasm, here's your host, Steve.
Thank you. Did you say thank you for riding Facts Still Matter? I'll remember that one. Anyway, thanks for being here, friend. I love you very much. And by the way, everybody, I just want to let you know, friends, something extremely important. Today is Jennifer's 29th birthday again. So if I could ask you all to send her some love, send her some hearts, send her some kind tidings, send her some appreciation for what she does, because although she comes up here to kind of to give me flowers, I'm about to give you some. So sit there kindly and just please listen. Jen is an ICU nurse, used to be a flight nurse, does so much to help her community. She's gone toe to toe with MAGA, with right-wing conspiracy theories, with a bunch of fucking rhetoric. She's had threats made against her. She stands up every single day. I've met her in person. She is passionate. She's caring. She's loving. She's focused. She's got a son that serves. She's an amazing human being. I am incredibly honored to call you a friend. Happy birthday to you, my dear friend. Really, really appreciate you very, very much.
Well, thank you very much. That's probably the nicest thing someone said to me in a very long time. Usually it starts with see you next Tuesday on this app. But, you know, Steve, I'm very blessed to have be part of this family. And even though I wake up at 5 o'clock my time, sorry, I had to count for a second. If you know, you know. I just love you very much as a friend, and I think that your message is super important. That's why I love doing what I do with you, and I'm super excited to just see you explode, no pun intended, in the nation as a voice for a lot of people to find their civic engagement. And I know I speak for Michelle as well, that you're important to us for many, many reasons. So,
well, thank you, but
we appreciate you.
But it's your birthday, so you take your flowers, okay?
Thank you.
Okay.
Well, I'd just like to say that 49 never looked so goddamn good.
Damn straight, sister. I love you. I'll talk to you later. Happy birthday.
All right. Love you. Love you, family. Thank you so much for the gifts.
All right. Bye. No, she's, when I say 29 again, it's kind of a joke. No, she's 29 again. You understand the joke. Happy birthday, Jen. We love you very much. Anywho, yes. So I appreciate that. And thank you for all you do for our team and for our entire community. And I think there's a lot of people that are out there fighting, right? Everybody does their own thing. And that's kind of what's really inspired me about Do Something, because I hear these stories. People tell me that they're doing this, that they never contacted their elected officials before. 202-224-3121 is the congressional switchboard. Maybe you could consider phone banking, maybe you consider volunteering, whatever it might be. That's the impetus for Do Something. So when we talk about Do Something, don't think it's something that is something you feel like you could never do. It's the littlest things. I always use the pebble in the pond analogy. You drop the pebble in, it makes a tiny little ring, and then it becomes this concentric wave. So anybody who's involved, anybody who's ever gotten motivation from what we've talked about here, I'm incredibly grateful for everything that you do, and to Jen and to my amazing mod team and to Michelle and to anybody who supports this community. I could not do this every day without you. It goes without saying, I could not do this without you all. I want you to please understand. In fact, I could not do this without any of you. You keep this train on the tracks. I'm motivated when I get up every day. I've got a doctor's appointment today I have to go to, and my doctor's gonna be like, "What are you doing about your cholesterol, Monk?" I'm eating pork rinds and steak. And I'm like, because I'm motivated to be healthier. I'm trying to lose a little bit of weight, because my back's fucked up. But you all motivate me. So I just really, really appreciate everything that everybody does connected to our show, does to support what we do here. Thank you all very, very much. Back to the show. Okay. Now that we've had to shower after listening to Elon Musk, we're now going to move into the cesspool that is Nick Fuentes. Again, I think it's important to talk about it because these people are influential. Tens of millions of followers who listen to their bullshit. Okay? He sat down. So this is broken up into a couple of parts. He sat down on the Pondering Political show. He sat down with Hunter Biden and the host, and they touched on a variety of topics. So I'm just going to play them not in any particular order.
Is that every single Israeli prime minister since at least Jimmy Carter was president, has walked into the Oval Office or picked up the phone and called the president and said, we have to attack Iran. And every single one of them has said no. And they may not all have had the same exact reason, but one of the reasons they did is because they knew what the consequences would be as it relates to the lifeblood of the economy, is petroleum in the Straits of Hormuz. Every single one of them knew that. And every single one of them knew that there is no way, unless you send in ground forces, to end with certainty the nuclear program that the Iranians have supposedly been building. Every single one of them knew that the existing Ayatollah at that time, had put out a fatwa, an edict saying that they would never turn their nuclear technology into a bomb.
The supreme leader of Iran issued.
I'm just going to pause there quickly. He brought up a really interesting point. Going back to Carter, well, we can use Bibi. Going back 25 years, Israeli leadership has been trying to convince an American president to jump on board and go after Iran. Bush said no. Clinton said no. Bush said no. Obama said no. Trump said yes in his first administration, but he had adults in the room that said, no, Mr. President, not a good idea. And they didn't do it. Biden said no. And here we are again because the warmongers are surrounding him, because there's an opportunity for enrichment so they can flex this, so they can flex and flex and flex. And finally, Bibi, there was an infamous meeting in the Situation Room where Bibi was there. The head of Mossad and the head of the Israeli military were all there. And they laid out like a PowerPoint with pictures and whistles and bells and bright colors, and they dangled it in front of Trump, and he got all excited and said, yeah, that sounds great. How much money can we make? And here we are.
Fatwa. Having nuclear weapons is forbidden.
They would never turn their nuclear technology into a bomb.
The supreme leader of Iran issued fatwa. Having nuclear weapons is forbidden, is haram, which means never we can have nuclear weapons.
It was a religious edict as strong as if the Pope had released an encyclical.
Exactly.
But what did he do? He kills the Ayatollah. We get a son that now has a far more radical and far greater ties to the IRGC. And what do we have? The Straits of Hormuz are still closed. He said that they're brilliant people. I find that's Donald Trump on everything. He said he'd end the war in Ukraine on day one.
That is a war that's dying to be settled. I will get it settled before I even become president.
And I didn't hear anybody on the
So this segment is Hunter Biden confronting Nick Fuentes.
right and it'd say that's just bullshit.
So this again, I can't play the whole thing, and we're going to have to interrupt it with commentary because again, we can't just totally play 20 minutes uninterrupted of Andrew Callahan. So I've got more for you here, but just right out the gate, what's interesting is you'll see Hunter as he's pressing Fuentes, because this whole section starts with how the hell, I know you're against Trump now, but why the hell were you ever for him in the first place? And how the hell did you not depart him sooner? Because Donald Trump has not changed. Donald Trump is exactly who he said he was from the very beginning, if you were paying attention.
Correct.
And what's interesting is here, Hunter approaches this from a very clever tactic in the sense that he's starting with a point of alignment because Nick Fuentes has become one of the most vocal critics of the Iran war. And he's talking about, again, the incompetence and the mismanagement of this war and how every other president, including Democratic presidents, never fell into this trap. But only Trump was uniquely stupid enough to do it.
It's just bullshit. He said he would build a wall. I don't believe in building a wall, but everybody said that's bullshit. And then when he got into office, the corruption, the level of the corruption, I mean, people believed or led to believe that there was this thing called the Biden crime family, right? I know that you know is that I didn't do a single piece of business when my dad was president. I made basically $200,000 a year selling paintings. I picked the thing that was all I can say is.
And he's right about that, as the evidence has shown us. Once again, an entire narrative built by people like Nick Fuentes. He's partly responsible. People like Joe Rogan, people like Elon, people like Matt Walsh, people like Tim Pool. They created this entire fucking model about the Biden crime family. Meanwhile, the RT, Russian TV, Russian media, buying brainwashing through right-wing podcasts. Again, Tim Pool, Matt Walsh, and others. And here we sit. Here we fucking sit. Here we sit now. And now people are like, Nick Fuentes has a come to Jesus moment. Once again, not platforming him. I'm just sharing this because these people were responsible for a lot of that rhetoric. And the question is, how many followers are they going to continue to have? How many people? I know Nick's on the Groyper side because Nick doesn't think Trump's extreme enough, apparently. So that stench is going to continue to linger. I've got some more. This interview is interesting. So now they're talking about Zohran Mamdani and communism. This is an interesting segment as well. Once again, the threat that the right now feels is people like Zohran who just want a society that functions a little bit better by supporting things that should be supported.
Donnie, and regardless of his delivery, which may be off-putting, particularly from somebody coming from your side, is that
when I go to the doctor today, he's going to ask me what I'm doing about my cholesterol, and I'm going to tell him I'm off-putting.
Delivering, man. You know what? I mean, he's really delivering. You know, like I saw somebody going after Mamdani for some of this stuff, and particularly about rent control. You know, and I was like, well, how do you think that the middle class was built after World War II and the GI Bill and rent controlled buildings that created those communities that we were talking about an hour ago? Created the availability for somebody that was 26 years old that had a job with the MTA to be able to live and work in the city and put the kid in a school with the idea that they would be safe walking there and go to a park that, you know, where the water fountains worked. That's what I see him trying to do. I mean, by the way, it's just so tired and, you know, ridiculous. He's a communist, like it's about the communists. Like who even says that anymore? Nobody, like, you know what? But it's 1981.
I really like Hunter. I gotta say it. I really do. I mean, it's just like, you know, I was trying to be objective going into this. I'm like, I don't want to be, you know, manipulated because of what he's gone through and the amount of shit he's taken for years. But I just like the straight talk. He's right. He's like, why the fuck are you talking about fucking communism? Because you need something. You need to tell people something to be afraid of because the messaging that you've been using ain't working. It's just not. It's just not working. You know, you're losing support. You're the least popular president in American history. The war is exploding. People are fucking dying. We've got hospitals closing, people losing SNAP benefits, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So he's confronting Nick Fuentes with all this shit. He's confronting with it because Nick, you are responsible because you believe this shit too. Not only did you believe it, you probably still do, but your thousands of followers believed it as well.
And, you know, we're watching Rocky V and worried about the communists. You know what I mean? I just don't get it.
Rocky IV.
Good
Was it Rocky IV? My whole Philly legitimacy was just blown right there. Yeah. But it's just kind of, and so I look at somebody like Mamdani, I think, well, he's just talking about good government.
Agreed. And this is one more. So this is another piece of this conversation. You'll hear from Nick a little bit in this one. I wanted to kind of set the stage because Hunter is confronting him, right? Say, listen, why did you voted for him? You knew this. Trump has not fucking changed. You know, we've talked to people in this app who are trying to convert, trying to deconstruct, right? Trump has not changed. Most people's ideologies have remained well, not everybody's, but as far as the Overton window, right? Our country has shifted more to the right. It has. I mean, in fact, the world is shifting more to the right. Case in point, what we listen to from Elon, that kind of rhetoric. So when people say that the left is extreme, that's because the window is moved further to the right. People on the left have always believed in healthcare, always believed in education reform, always believed that capitalists are the enemy, always believed that we have a tax code that benefits the rich and the wealthy, always believed that the deconstruction of social safety nets is horrible. And now that's considered radical, right? Now that's considered dangerous. Okay, fine.
Whenever I caught wind that you wanted to do an interview like this, is, why now? What made you want to sit down for this kind of interview?
Well, I think it's an interesting conversation to have all of us here. And, I think it's a moment in our country when there's a lot of realignment. I think that people recognize, especially in the past couple of years, I'm like a non-conventional critic, maybe, of what's happening. And so I think it'll be an interesting, productive conversation. I think it'll be different.
I would love to hear, and I'm not asking you to retract everything that you've ever said and all the, or anything, but I said that I would love to talk to you because number one, I told you this, is that I think you're really smart. And I think that with that comes in it.
I would agree. Calling balls and strikes. I would agree that Nick Fuentes is very smart. I would agree with that. Doesn't mean that he's not a threat. Doesn't mean what he says is just hateful. The things that he has said about women and minorities and marginalized communities, despicable. He is smart, though. He convinces a lot of people because how do I say this? Someone sees somebody that they idolize. So whether it be the Groyper community or people that are on the far right, they see someone who is smart. They're drawn to that, which is dangerous if you have hate-filled rhetoric. Like, I don't think Elon is very smart. I just don't. I just think he's got a lot of power. He's got a lot of money. He makes cool shit. He makes rockets. He makes EVs. He makes all kinds of wild shit, fucking robots and everything else. I don't think he's very smart. So there's one draw. I think people like Nick Fuentes are smart. They know how to use the media. They know how to manipulate an audience. They know how to message. That's dangerous. Because he is smart and because he is fueled by hatred and anger. He's very, very, very one of the people responsible for putting Trump in the White House, in my opinion.
And a real responsibility. And you have an audience. And I have a friend whose son is my daughter's age, maybe 28, your age. And he's really smart. And he is a big fan of yours. And so by virtue of the relationship, I got to learn what it is why he is a fan of yours. And none of it has to do with, I would hope you agree, like really egregious things that you've said in the past about the Holocaust or about, but what he agrees with is kind of the anger about the situation that particularly your generation finds yourself in. I know that to be real. And I think that there, maybe my reasons for recognizing that anger is being legitimate and my targets are different than yours. I just wanted to hear from you.
Again, I think it's fascinating, right? And so then when we pivot to talking about Zohran Mamdani, I think I played that section for you already. I did. There was one more clip, but I think I lost it. Oh yeah, this one. This is now again, he's responsible for putting, well, not entirely responsible. So, and the comment on YouTube that I liked. Where is it? Galvanizing, this is from Chung Chungster on YouTube. Galvanizing hate doesn't take a great deal of intelligence. I agree, but he is smart. I would agree with that. I mean, Trump has galvanized hate and he's as dumb as a post. I think that's the threat. That's kind of the point that I wanted to share with you guys today. Like Joe Rogan, dumb as a rock. Tucker Carlson, smart guy, no doubt. Nick Fuentes, smart guy. And I think those two in particular, although coming at it from different perspectives, because Nick Fuentes is radicalized. He is extremely far right. He's never going to apologize for the things he said about the Holocaust or the horrible things he said about immigrant communities, Muslims in particular, or women, or the LGBTQIA community. He'll never apologize for that. But he's smart, and he's a chameleon, and he's got a lot of money, and he's got a lot of influence. He is, Mars. Sadly, we just because somebody says something that is horribly despicable and vile doesn't mean that they're not intelligent. He is smart. He's got a lot of influence. All right, here's another section. He's talking about J.D. Vance in particular.
Being in power scares you so much.
If Trump doesn't have an ideological core, then Vance really doesn't, because Vance is a chameleon. That's not his real name for openers. Never had a real job. These are all sinecures given to him by Peter Thiel. 6 years ago, he's a never Trumper.
I'm a never Trump guy. I never liked him. I think that he's leading people in a very dark direction, and that's ultimately what worries me the most.
Terrible candidate. Idiot if you voted for him. Might be America's Hitler.
I was wrong about Donald Trump. I didn't think he was going to be a good president, Brett. He was a great president.
Now he's a national conservative, national populist. And so we don't even really know who he is. I mean, to me, this is basically a Manchurian candidate. This is a shell. And who is the power behind him? It's the oligarchs. It's the little tech oligarchs in bed with the CIA, especially at this fever pitch with AI. I think that's really dangerous. To me, him being president is just a worse scenario in my mind. Palantir was founded by Peter Thiel, and Peter Thiel's very close with David Sachs. J.D. Vance was given his first job in Silicon Valley by Thiel. Thiel hooked him up with it. The CEO of that company said it was a personal favor to Thiel that I hired him. And then Thiel got him all his jobs at these various venture capital firms, including his own, and then funding J.D. Vance's venture capital firm. Peter Thiel gave $15 million to Vance when he ran for Senate in Ohio in 22. Peter Thiel secured President Trump's endorsement for him in 22, which basically got him the nomination and the seat. So, I mean, as far as anybody's concerned, Vance owes his entire political career to Peter Thiel, who derives his fortune from Palantir.
Again, not a dumb guy. Be able to paint that story, paint the picture as to why. But the interesting part about that is that he knew all this shit. He knew it all along. It's nothing different. He started to lose support for Trump again when Vance came into the picture. But he advocated for him, Trump, that is, back in 2016, again in 2020. I want to be very, very clear. I'm certainly not excusing any of the things that he said, nor would I ever. We'll call him out what he is. He's a vile fucking piece of shit, but he's dangerous. Whether he's going to decide to run for office, I don't know. Is he going to be an influencer in the future of a reconstructed Republican Party that's fueled by even more hatred and even more extremism? Maybe. That's kind of what we need to look out for. All right, I've got a few more people that have requested, and I'll be happy to bring some more folks up. Again, if you're in the box and you don't mean to be in the box, if I could just ask you to drop out. Jonna, how are you today?
Sorry, I didn't mean to.
It's no problem. I got you. It's no problem. I appreciate you. If I could just ask everybody to kind of check their box status, I would appreciate that. At 10 o'clock, friends, we'll do our weekly spin of the wheel and give away prizes. Good morning, my friend. How are you?
Steve, good morning. Hey, chat. So it's so funny. I was actually going to message you about a similar topic with the left. So what I've been noticing is, and I never both sides anything, but this actually happens on the left side of politics as well, with this idealistic candidate. You know, as soon as somebody says something semi-smart, they just jump on it. So lately I've been seeing this whole thing because of Hunter's I guess media blitz or whatever it is. Yeah. Everybody's like, Hunter for president, Hunter for president, without any vetting, without any understanding of like the political landscape and what we actually need. They did the same thing to Mandami, although he's actually doing fairly well, but I don't think he was vetted appropriately to understand whether he would be a good president of the United States. They did the same thing for Gavin Newsom, if you think about it. As soon as everything kind of fell apart with Kamala, then here we go with Gavin Newsom with, oh my goodness, Gavin. And they have this this whole thing about, You all are not getting it in the chat. It's not about him running or not. I'm talking about specifically how people are pushed forward inside of the left side of politics just because they say something, semi-smart. And that's what Steve had mentioned before, where it was, they appear smart, or, whatever this is, and we do it on the same left side of politics. I don't know why y'all are like freaking out about this. It's exactly what it is.
Yeah,
that's exactly what happens.
I don't agree entirely, because if you think about, because we're talking about messaging, you can be smart on the left and smart on the right, but the right, the people who are the influencers on the right currently, people like Elon Musk, people like Nick Fuentes, are just fueled by hatred towards marginalized groups. I don't think the comparison is the same. I think there's a big difference there. I mean, Zohran Mamdani.
Oh no, I agree.
Okay, yeah.
I agree.
Okay,
I agree with that.
Yeah,
100%.
I think that's the difference.
That's not the part that I was talking about, and I 100% agree with you. I'm not talking about the hate and this behind it. I'm just saying they say anything semi-smart on our side, and it's like, oh my goodness, let's get this person into the presidency seat, is what I'm saying.
That's fair.
So they have these idealistic views of these candidates without vetting them. And that's the same thing that happens on the right side of politics, where they're not really vetting them. They just hear something that is hateful, like you just said, and they just like, oh yeah, they're gonna push my hateful agenda. Let me push them forward.
Yeah.
So whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, the reason why they're pushing these candidates forward is still not done in an appropriate way.
Yeah, I don't think it's the same. I'll challenge your thinking a little bit. I don't think it's the same on the left.
Okay.
I understand what you're saying. I just don't think it's the same on the left. I think we tend to seek people, at least I won't speak for everybody. We tend to seek people who can clearly explain what it is that's important to them. Because you hear conversations from people on the left that are more geared towards policy. What you hear from the right is geared towards hate and anger and diminishing of marginalized communities. I think that's the difference. I totally understand what you're saying, and I think we've had this conversation before. I don't know, when did it become a bad thing to be smart, right? So right wing rhetoric for the past decade and a half has been going after, as they say, intellectuals. Why?
Well, they don't want people smart because they don't want people to think and challenge what they're talking about.
Exactly.
So that's the reason why they don't like people smart.
Exactly.
Yeah. I guess I didn't convey that correctly, because I'm agreeing with exactly what you're saying. I'm just like, I don't want the left side of politics to do this whole like savior thing. Like, oh my goodness, he's going to save us.
That's fair.
Let me push him forward.
That's fair.
And that's why I was like this. I've been hearing the chirping about Hunter Biden. Oh, Hunter Biden, he's saying some witty things, and so on and so forth. That's all that I mean. It wasn't not the both sides and in the destruction of it all, but just like how people are like pushed forward. That's what I meant.
I get that. Yeah, I guess my comment about Hunter was I just appreciate his straight talk. Like, these are the kinds of conversations.
I do too.
And pushback. I don't know if he's ever going to plan. I have no idea if he's ever planning on running for office. I have no idea. But the fact that he can convey what we've all been talking about and confront the people who've been saying it in the way that he did it, without any of the political fluff, without any of the talking head fluff, I just appreciated that. But I understand what you're saying.
You all are saying, somebody said nobody wants Hunter. I'm telling you all, like, go and just start to go in the left spaces and listen to some of the chirping this around. Like, it happens all the time. Like, anybody, they just like, oh my goodness, that's our next candidate. I'm telling you, like, just stroll around throughout the week and see what you're hearing and see how it kind of manifests. That's all I'm saying.
I appreciate you as always, friend. Thanks for jumping in on a Monday morning. You have a lovely day. Be safe out there, okay?
Yes, you too. Bye, Steve.
Bye, friend. See you later. I get that. I mean, 'cause I think here's the thing. There will never be another Barack Obama. Never. Someone who could so eloquently and so efficiently convey message, not just from a policy side. There's lots of things we can criticize Barack Obama for. Like, I think he handled the entire Flint, Michigan water situation really badly. Just the fact that he sort of diminished the entire community when he drank a glass of water when he went there. There's lots of things that we can criticize him for. I mean, that's part of it, right? That's part of what we're supposed to do. But it's never going to change the fact that he's one of the most brilliant orators that have ever been in office. Eloquently, efficiently, effectively conveying his message, confronting some of the things that he had to confront, being articulate and explaining why we did certain things. We could criticize the decisions made to bail out the banking industry. I don't think there was a choice. I think the lessons that we learned from that were necessary, but we can still criticize. We're never going to, and I think people on the left potentially, I'm not going to speak for everyone, we might be looking for that again because we've been so, we can even criticize Joe Biden, not the most eloquent and efficient speaker. He didn't have to be. He was an effective president. He had a great team around him. We passed massive amounts of legislation. We had 4 years of Trump. We had 4 years of Biden. We have another 4 years of Trump. There's been nobody to fill that space, right? There's been nobody. So when we hear people on the left who can effectively and efficiently and eloquently and articulate to be able to articulate their policies, right? People like, I'm not saying Hunter, but people like John Ossoff, for example, and even Gavin Newsom for a way. I'm not a huge fan of Gavin Newsom, but again, I think he's a good, effective communicator. I think that's what we're looking for, right? I think maybe, would you guys agree? I think that's the piece that Ferry was talking about. Like we're drawn to people who are smart. At least I am. I'm a sapiosexual. Give me a big brain. I'm on my knees for you. That kind of shit. That's what we're looking for. And I don't think it's a lot for us to ask to have somebody like Jamie Raskin, for example, somebody like AOC, somebody like, again, communication is incredibly important, and we've missed that for a decade now. That's kind of what I hope I'm making sense. Anyway, I agree with you, Ferry. All right, back to the other side of this issue. It's almost 10 o'clock, and we'll our friend Brooke will come up and spin the wheel for us. All right. What else did I wanted to get to here? I covered that. Okay. Again, it is the 219th day of the federal government breaking the law in regards to not releasing everything connected to the Epstein files. So there's new reporting that Jess Staley told the oversight that he spoke with JP Morgan CEO about Epstein's crimes. Democrats say, this is reporting by Politico, Democrats say that they'll call Staley back to testify under oath if their party wins the majority in the midterms. This is dated last week. Jess Staley, former top executive at JP Morgan, who fought to keep the Jeffrey Epstein as a client at the bank after Epstein became a convicted sex offender, told the House Oversight Committee that he spoke to JP Morgan CEO Jamie Dimon at least twice about Epstein's criminal exposure. According to people familiar with the exchange, Staley said he spoke to Dimon about Epstein on two occasions, once in 2006 when Epstein was first indicted, and another in 2008 after when Epstein was in jail. Staley's recollection, which he has shared versions of in previous depositions over the years, deviates from what Dimon previously said under oath in a deposition before federal prosecutors, namely that he and Staley never discussed the matter of whether to retain Epstein as a client. Interesting. Remember why Al Capone went to jail. Tax evasion. Okay? So follow the money, friends. Follow the fucking money. Here's a situation where we've got people who are in the know, not on the same page. Dimon said, we never discussed it. Staley said, we absolutely did discuss it. Okay. It also increases the possibility that the House Oversight Committee could at some point call Dimon in for questioning about how JP Morgan was allegedly complicit in allowing Epstein to withdraw huge sums of money he used to traffic young girls and women for years. It also reinforces the reality that the years-long congressional Epstein investigation could have no end in sight, as more witnesses give reasons for lawmakers to continue the inquiry. No, quote, no such conversation ever occurred, said Staley, and Staley lacks credibility. Patricia Wexler, a spokesperson for JP Morgan, said in a statement last week, a UK tribunal found Staley to be evasive and unreliable. Okay. That's why we want them to testify under oath. That's why we want it publicized. Remember, I'm gonna pivot for just a moment, friends. I want to play this for you because I think the timing is appropriate. I know many of you have heard this before, but I think it's really important because Mike Johnson, the original bitch boy, he is Mr. January on the bitch boy calendar
But the DSA, the Democrat Socialists of America, candidates in the Democrats do. They are on the verge of an open civil war because the establishment Democrats are being pushed out by the Marxists. They're having a lot of disarray on their side, and that will play to our advantage in the midterms. We have, for the first time in 10 years, my friends, we have a slight fundraising advantage over the Democrats. That never happens. People are so motivated, and we have the President of the United States running like it's 2024, okay? He's going to tell you that himself here in a few minutes. He's going to tell.
And remember, Hunter Biden appearing with Don Lemon just last week, he's saying, are you asking me? So Hunter asks Don Lemon, are you asking me if Mike Johnson's gay? Are you asking me if Josh Hawley is gay? Are you asking me if Stephen Miller is gay? And they both sort of chuckled together. Okay.
Oh, yeah, he's out doing campaigns and rallies, and he's going to look right into the eyes of the camera and say, I am on the ballot, because in a real sense he is. If we were to lose the midterms, heaven forbid, these Democrats, y'all, impeachment's not even the big concern. They will turn every committee of Congress into an investigative body, and they'll go after the president's family, the cabinet, his donors and friends. Half of you in this room will be targeted.
That part. So when we have reporting from Politico about wanting to bring Jess Staley back in for questioning and Jamie Dimon back in for questioning, that is why. And Mike Johnson, my guy, listen, when you left the house this morning and you forgot to bring your peanut butter and jelly like you like when you like it cut into triangles with the crust cut off, I told you, I reminded you that when you lose your power, when you lose your seat, and then you started to stomp your feet, and then you forgot your booster chair, I told you that this is what's going to happen, that people in your party, the defenders of predators and pedophiles, are going to have to face questioning. So, again, according to Patricia Wexler, no such conversation ever occurred, and Staley lacks credibility. He lacks credibility because their stories contradict? Is that why? Have you ever thought that Jamie Dimon might be the one who lacks credibility? Probably not, huh? Of course not. The United Kingdom's Financial Conduct Authority banned Staley, also the former CEO of Barclays, from holding senior management roles in the British financial services industry after finding that Staley misrepresented his relationship with Epstein. A UK tribunal said that Staley lacked credibility and has shown no remorse for his conduct. A spokesperson for Staley did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Democrats were already on the warpath for Staley, emerging mid-interview to complain that their witness was being evasive and pledging to bring him back to testify under oath if the party retakes the majority in the midterms. Rep. Robert Garcia of California, the top Democrat on the House Oversight Committee, lamented that the interview was not done in public view and under the terms of a deposition, and suggested that he would recall Staley to testify again under more restrictive arrangements if he becomes chair next year. What's happening right now is a good reason why all of these interviews need to be under oath. If you don't have anything to hide, then why would you not be testifying under oath? That's the question, right? So Staley is clearly, in our opinion, just not being truthful and flat out lying. The reality is he's claiming first that he had no relationship with Epstein. I mean, that is just ridiculous. He added, this is someone that chose to work with a person that he knew had been convicted already of sex crimes. Oversight Chair James Comer of Kentucky told reporters that Staley was, quote, very close friends with Mr. Epstein and, quote, and defended Epstein time and time again in front of J.P. Morgan, regardless of all the red flags, to keep him as a client. The question for you, James Comer, why did you not allow that deposition to be public? Why did you not put him under oath? And why did you not allow Democrats to question him? If you knew all those things. I'll leave that right there. At one point, according to a person granted anonymity to describe the closed-door exchange, committee investigators asked Staley whether the cash withdrawals had to do with sexual abuse or paying women for sexual abuse. Staley replied no, adding that it was shocking to him that Epstein would continue to abuse minors after doing a stint in jail for it. Epstein was ultimately convicted years later for sex trafficking and died by suicide behind bars in 2019. Nice. Host is a POS? That's interesting, Jeff. I'm going to send you an invitation, Jeff. I'd like you to tell me why. Because it's big man talk down in the chat. Big old tough guy alpha talk down in the chat to tell me that I'm a POS. You can come up and tell me you can tell me in person if you'd like. You can turn your camera on because my camera's on. Because I would never make a comment like that unless I was a weak ass beta from the chat commenting that the host is a POS. I mean, you can share your alphaness if you're interested, Jeff, by just coming up and talking to me. You probably won't do that though, will you? Of course not. Didn't think so. All right, let's bring our friend Brooke up. I got to get my list here. Hang on a second. Good morning, my dear friend. How are you?
I am good. How are you?
I am fine. Thank you very much. I'm going to put you on. So this is what we do, friends. We have Brooke. Brooke has been our wheel spinner, and we have the entries of last week's contest assigned numerically. So everybody that donated $3 or more, whether it be 3 or 6 or 9, you got to have gotten 1, 2, or 3 or 5 entries. Everybody's assigned a number, and she put it on our fancy wheel, and we're going to spin the wheel now, and then we're going to award a winner. All right, you ready with the big screen?
Yep, I'm ready.
All right.
Let me turn my camera around.
Okay, here we go.
You figure out it. Hang on. Let me turn the camera around.
All right.
I got to figure it out.
All right, I got you. Everybody keep tapping the screen, please.
Because it takes me forever.
And as a reminder, every $3 entry gets you into our contest. And we run the contest through the end of the show to the end of That's a Wrap on Friday night. So everybody's numbers have been so again, I have the list of everybody who donated. We've assigned everybody a number. So Brooke's going to spin the wheel. Let's roll. Here we go.
Yep. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Here we go. The winner is number 55.
55. Hang on a second here. 55 would be Marva. I won't share your last name, Marva. Marva was our winner. Marva donated $5 on the 24th. What day was that? That would have been Friday. $5 via Cash App. Marva, congratulations. If you're watching the show today, Marva, all I would ask is that you either message me directly through TikTok or you could use Cash App if you wanted to, but you are the winner of an item of your choice from the merch store. And if you're interested, you can co-host a segment of this show with me or an entire episode of That's a Wrap. So again, congratulations to you, Marva. You donated $5 on the 24th. Was that Friday? Yes, on the 24th via Cash App. Congratulations to you, Marva, and thank you, Brooke. Anything on your mind while you're here?
Yes, actually, before you kick me.
I'm not going to kick. I would never kick you. Never.
I have good news and bad news. Which one do you want first?
The good news.
Okay. As of this morning, according to my home scale, I have lost 115 pounds.
That, you look incredible. So I'm not surprised to hear that. That is absolutely amazing. Can I get flowers for our dear friend Brooke, please? Like lots of them, please. That is incredible. How can there be any bad news after that?
Well, the air conditioning in my house stopped working yesterday.
That's not good. That's definitely not good. That's not good at all.
And we're coming up into August, and it's like, oh no.
And
we have to check it out. We have to figure out what's going on with it. But hopefully it's not a major fix, but we may be going to room air conditioners for a little while before we can get it repaired. So we'll see.
Yeah,
that's my bad news.
You live in a sticky, steamy part of the world, so that's horrible. But well, who cares about the bad news? Congratulations on your journey. That's amazing. You look absolutely fabulous. So freaking proud of you, friend. So freaking proud of you. That's incredible. That's incredible.
Thank you.
Love you very much.
Hope you have a great day.
Same to you. Talk to you later.
Love you too.
All
Love
right.
everybody.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
That's awesome. Love that. Yeah, cold showers. No kidding. That's great. Congratulations, Brooke. I did not know that. That's amazing. And again, what did I say? Number 55, right? Yeah, Marva. Congratulations, Marva. Again, you donated $5 on last Friday via Cash App. Congratulations to you. An item of your choice from the merch store. And if you're interested in co-hosting for a segment of our show, please just let me know. Appreciate you. Okay, I've got a few people that are in the box. I don't know if you requested. By the way, I have to end a little bit before 11:30 today because I got to go to the doctor. It's all good, just a follow up. But a few things I got to deal with that I've been putting off. Yes, I know. Don't be mad at me. Okay. All right. Let's shift gears a little bit. I want to talk a little bit about flock cameras. You guys know what flock cameras are? I want to share this story because this is about the deep state. So, hang on. Flock cameras, just by definition, are cameras made by Flock Safety. They've increasingly been used by police departments, neighborhoods, businesses, schools, and shopping centers across the U.S. to help investigate crimes by identifying vehicles. They photograph the rear and sometimes front of vehicles traveling on public roads. They automatically read and record license plate numbers, make and models, vehicle color, direction of travel, time and location, distinguishing features such as bumper stickers, dents, roof racks, trailers, or other visible accessories. The company says as cameras do not use facial recognition, are not designed to identify drivers or passengers, focus on vehicles rather than people. The controversy is less about the camera itself than about the large searchable database that the cameras create. I bring it up because there has been a massive increase in the rollout of flock cameras since Inauguration Day of last year. And we know that ICE, DHS, and Immigration has been using a lot of this information. Where it gets interesting is that the amount of cameras placed in early 2025 was around 60,000. It's now increased to well over 150,000 nationwide, and they keep adding cameras. All right. So, well, the complicated, you guys would be surprised that Flock Safety has a corporate PAC that is donated to Trump and MAGA committees. CEO Garrett Langley, the CEO of Flock, is a major donor to Donald Trump and Trump-aligned super PACs. Flock executives are among some of the most significant Trump fundraisers frequently identified in campaign finance reporting. Now, the connection that I'm making is not that Flock does not have the ability to use or to promote their cameras, because it's not just about the Trump administration. We can make everything about that. It's local police forces. It's whatever it might be. It's mall security. But every single time we turn the page, there's another example of this level of corruption. So Flock does engage in lobbying on issues affecting public safety, privacy regulations, law enforcement procurement, and AI and surveillance policy. There are other competitors out there. Lots of them. F your priv. Yeah. Okay. The problem is there's no specific claims and or information that I could find about federal contracts. But what exactly? Fuck your privacy. Exactly. But when you start to put the pieces together, it's just another layer, right? When you've got all these people, including the CEO, who's a mega donor, who knows what they got behind closed doors? And then all of a sudden we see a massive spike in Flock cameras being installed across the country. No direct connection, at least that I could find, to federal contracts. But we certainly know that ICE does use Flock cameras to make their jobs easier. We certainly know that a lot of the police unions have endorsed the president. Draw your own conclusions. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm just letting you know what we found. Interesting story, right? And I think the desire for all of our desire, we don't want, our invasions of privacy, but that's one of the things that a lot of conservatives talk about the deep state. Like, I want a small government. I think about our friend John, probably in here today. Here's an example, John, of the things that you say you fucking hate. Big government. Give me an example of bigger government than this. Give me an example of bigger government than masked federal agents marching around the streets of American cities, unaliving people. Right? I think about that scene. What's the movie? It's one of the National Treasure movies, right? Where I think it's the second one, when they're driving around the streets of London and he holds up this artifact so that the camera can capture it, that kind of shit. Yeah, somebody just said, who said that? Suntree Art, Big Brother for real, right? Big Brother for real. So we've got I'm sure it's going to continue. So it's ramping up at a significant rate. The more we see it every single day, the more it continues. I see a request here from Jen. I've got more on that story in a second and how it relates to other things. Good morning, Jen. How are you?
Hey, Steve, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. What's on your mind?
I'm all right too. Well, the thing you just mentioned about Flock and the contracts, and I know you just said, if I heard you right, that you didn't see a direct connection with like federal contracts.
I couldn't find
what
any.
about the 280s?
I'm not saying they don't exist. I just couldn't find any specific federal contracts. They're probably
No,
out there.
I believe you, but consider the indirect connection with the 287G contracts that are between ICE and our government and the local and state police departments. Sorry, like just went up the stairs. So I'm totally out of breath.
You're good.
So, and I'm in a high elevation, you guys. I'm not that bad, but I'm at about 7,000 feet right now.
Oh, wow. Cool.
So
Good for
anyway,
you.
yeah. So with those contracts, what's happening, you guys, is that local and state police departments are cooperating with ICE and CBP and all these other things, right? Our government, by way of allowing those people, the federal agencies, to create their own login, and they then access all the databases. So it's not like necessarily a direct thing, but thousands of local and state police departments now have contracted via the 287G program. If you're not familiar with that, just look it up. You'll see what it's all about. But it's a way to basically expand ICE's labor force and their efficacy, if you even want to call it that, by way of saying, hey, all of these police departments will cooperate with us. So if you're not in a sanctuary city or area, then most likely you do have some local agencies that are cooperating. And again, it's not necessarily that the federal agencies, they may not have a direct contract with Flock, but if they're able to create a login and access the database anyway, it sort of is. It's indirect, but they have it anyway. So just something for consideration.
No, it's a really good point because of the rhetoric towards sanctuary cities. You know, and I don't think it's a coincidence that we've added like 30% more Flock cameras since Inauguration Day last year, considering the administration's desire for mass immigration or mass deportation, right? So it's not a coincidence. And I agree with you. I was just trying to say factually, I couldn't find any federal contracts, but it makes perfect sense when you look at the rollout.
I believe you. Yeah. It's just that they're so sneaky. They do a lot of these behind the scenes connections so that it's harder for us to make them, right? It's harder for us to connect the dots, and it's easier for them to defend themselves and have plausible deniability when they have to go to court. Oh, no, there's nothing in writing here, you know, but don't look over here. Nothing to see over here on this side.
Yeah. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
Right. And we all know what it means, right? Once they get their foot in the door in one aspect, let's say immigration, now they're going to expand that. You guys all know this. We talk about this all the time. You know, how they're recategorizing domestic terrorists, right? Oh, now we have to use it for domestic terrorism. It's a very easy, very broad brushstroke for them to then paint us all as somebody as the enemy. And therefore, they're going to use these systems. Now that they're in place, they can very simply change a definition, and we're in bigger trouble. So this is why, and I've referred to this a lot in Timothy Snyder's book on tyranny. He talks about salami tactics. This is a slice by slice thing that we're, you know, if we overreact, people are telling us we're being hyperbolic. But in fact, we have very good reason to react the way that we are. And in some case, we are underreacting, right? Because we know where this is leading. History tells us where this is leading.
I was just going to say that history doesn't repeat, but it certainly rhymes. What was the, you mentioned, is it 287, you said? What was it again?
287G.
287.
And I think the G is in parentheses.
Okay.
Yeah. 287G program. And like I said, thousands of agencies, unfortunately, have already contracted because they're getting their kickbacks too. Like, we know how this works. They're getting enhanced equipment. They're getting, you know, more staff. And you guys know, I hate to say this, but like, I have connections to the law enforcement community. The caliber of people that they're recruiting, we know is not good. We see that in the news, in fact, right? So it's horrible. You know, I don't like the direction it's going. I like to kind of keep an eye on it because it does affect all of our safety.
It
like
does.
Our neighbors, our family, everybody.
And privacy, I mean, which I think is, I mean, I'm sure you would probably agree. I mean, one of the biggest one of the biggest talking points here from the right is that they don't want Big Brother. They don't want the invasion of privacy. They expect the government to leave them alone. And yet here they are. We see a massive increase in the rollout of these flock cameras. And it's probably not just flock. We just use that one because it's obvious now. But you're right.
Yeah.
You know, it's not only invasion of privacy, but effects on our safety. And to your point, what's next? What's next? You don't like, you know,
Yeah.
you can't fly I hate Trump flag in your front yard. All of a sudden the feds come knocking at your door.
You know, it's very sad because I have relatives that are in the LGBTQ community, and they're even afraid to fly their own flag. And I'm like, it's so sad. It just literally makes me so sad that people can't express who they are and feel safe about it. The safety part is extremely sad to me. And again, I'm not going to belabor it because we talk about all this a lot, but you know, these little ways that they wedge their foot in the door is scary. And the way that technology is going, including Flock, can be used in very good ways if it's in the right hands.
Agreed.
Right?
Like anything.
All of this isn't. Yeah, and this is just in the wrong hands. And again, you know, guys, we have confidence that people who feel like we do, there are way more of us. It just sucks that the people who feel the way they do are the ones that have all the power right now. So we
Totally
have
agree.
to get it back. Please just remember the assignment for November. We are less than 100 days away. Please just remember the assignment. We have to get the power back. Like, we're not by nature power hungry people, but we have to realize how important it is to get it back.
Well said. Jen, thank you very much for jumping in today. I appreciate you. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Steve.
Have a good day.
Talk
Be
to you
safe
soon.
out there. All right. Take care. Bye.
You too.
Oh, sorry. Great point. It's a great point. She mentioned Tim Snyder. Actually, going to talk about him in a second. But there's reporting from the New York Times about some of what we just talked about how the federal government is, you know, alleged to have cut programs from blue states, and then they said no, we didn't do that, and then of course they find the reporting that they did. So here's the story.
Federal court in California today, the Trump administration has admitted to a federal judge that nearly $8 billion in funding cuts for energy projects across the country were based solely on whether a project was located in a blue state, a state that had voted for Kamala Harris and had 2 Democratic senators. When these cuts were announced last year, Energy Secretary Chris Wright bragged on them. He said each cut was made following a thorough, individualized financial review. Well, today, lawyers for the Department of Energy admitted that none of the cuts were based, quote, on any programmatic, statutory, cost reduction, or performance-based factor. Instead, the lawyers stipulate in court that these cuts were based solely on the political identity of the grant recipient. In other words, whether they were from a blue state or a non-blue state, as the lawyers put it. Now, we're talking about big projects for the New York State Energy Research and Development Authority, for the Colorado Energy Office, for the Hawaii Department of Business, Economic Development, and Tourism. These are crucial projects. Now, you might say federal funding is always political, and it is. But what's different here, 2 things. First, it's only political with the Trump administration. They're admitting it. Doesn't matter how much good a project might do for people in a state or across the country. Second, and this is more important, the Trump administration wouldn't be able to get away with this were it not for Republicans in Congress who won't stand up for their own constituents. There are millions of Republicans in these states, millions of independents, and Republican members of Congress are willing to stab them in the back when it comes to energy funding rather than stand up to President Trump. And that, finally, is what is so important about the midterms. We need a Congress that will stand up for the people rather than bow down to Trump.
It's a really good point about they had to basically admit, say, well, we didn't really study this. We just decided to pick on states that had 2 Democratic senators and voted for Kamala Harris in 2024. And he's right. At the end, this comes down, don't forget, there are Republicans in California, in Massachusetts, in New Jersey, in Vermont, and although many of those states don't have Republicans in Congress. Point being is that there's no Republicans that are standing up to it. None whatsoever. They're just okay with it. And like we say often, both sides are not the same. They're not. So I encourage people, programming note, by the way, I'm going to be joining our friends Lisa and Stacy tonight as we talk to a communist who's running for office. We'll learn more about that. I think it's at 8 o'clock tonight. My frustration with that group is I've yet to hear a plan. I hear the front end revolution, general strike, and then I hear a rebuilt society. I don't hear about anything in between. How do we protect marginalized communities? How do we make sure people are fed? How do we make sure people are safe? How do we make sure that the disabled community is not diminished because of reliance on programs? They have this theory that it's going to be this massive mutual aid bucket. How is it funded? All these kinds of things. So we'll talk about that. Actually, I just spoke her name and manifested her. Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm well, thank you. And you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Good. So we've changed it up a little bit. We are not going to be having that gentleman up tonight.
Okay. Okay.
We've canceled that appointment.
Okay.
So I just wanted to make sure that you and your folks know. I don't want you to show up and be disappointed. Like, where's the show?
No problem.
I'm not sure. I think I saw Lisa in here tonight. In here today. I'm not sure if we're going to go live. Regardless, I don't think that we're canceling the whole night. We may. I'm not sure. I have to talk to my partner, but I just wanted to come up and make that clarifying.
Well, I appreciate that. I didn't mean to speak out of turn. I appreciate.
Oh no. I mean, it was decided very late last night, so it was just a good opportunity and reminder to let folks know it's not going to be happening.
So, how are you? Since you're here, what's on your mind? What's the first? What's burning? What's burning a hole into? What's the worm brain in your mind today?
I think the first thing I heard when I got up this morning and stumbled into the shower before 6 a.m. Was about what you just mentioned, that they had to cough it up. They had to admit.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry. So to all of the Trumpies who were like, you're making it up, you're being hyperbolic. Well, that's a big word for them. You're fear mongering.
That's a big word too.
You're doing all the things. That. Tell me again how these are all just figments of our imagination. Tell us again how the Trump administration isn't actively seeking retribution for non-compliance. Miss me with all the bullshit. Folks, register. If you're not registered, check your registration. All we need to do is get control of. That is the focus. There's so much work that has to be done, but none of it can happen if we do not regain control of Congress. And if you're like, well, they're not far left enough, and listen, the time for that bullshit is over. Unless you still have a primary in your state, vote your heart in the primary, vote blue in the general, because everything hinges on control of Congress.
Completely agree. Completely agree. And I'm going to give you your flowers, so you're going to take them, please. The work that Stacey and Lisa have been doing by trying to platform progressive candidates. I've been very honored to be part of these conversations, and it's not always a safe space. We play good cop, bad cop on occasion, but it's not always a safe space for these candidates because we are challenging them to describe their policies to me, and it's not a pass. Just because you're a progressive, if you can't explain your policies and you don't show the energy and the excitement that we want, then we're going to challenge you. So I want to thank the two of you in particular for allowing me to share that space with you, because it's been fabulous. So more of them, please.
Oh, we are so honored to have you with your gigantic brain and being willing to throw those curveballs and call the balls and strikes. And one last thing before I leave, I was up on the panel night before last. I wasn't on the panel. I was in the room night before last. When we had that Friday night, I guess.
Yeah.
That very challenging conversation. And I text Lisa. I was like, Steve's the most emotionally regulated person I think I've ever met in my life. Your ability to be unflappable in the midst of the chaos and to keep not just because I can be quiet and I'm seething on the inside, but you're able to hold it together, still formulate questions, still listen, take in the information, and still maintain a productive conversation is applaudable. So thank you for your willingness to have those challenging conversations and not running from them. You did nothing wrong. You support all people, but you hold people accountable. And so sometimes it gets, it's not cute sometimes, but it's still necessary. So thank you, friend.
Really appreciate you saying that. Coming from you, that really means a lot. Thank you, Stacey, very much. I appreciate you. Let me know about later. I will be available. So if you decide to do something, let me know.
Okay.
Thank you, friend. Talk to you later. All right.
You're welcome.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
That's very kind of you to say. Yeah, it was an interesting night, Saturday night. We've gone through the process. If you're interested, you can go back and find the replay on YouTube. It would be the Saturday night's. Was it Saturday night? Yeah, it was Saturday night. Anyway, but thank you for that. So more to that story. The Trump administration has admitted in court canceling grants to states that did not vote for him. Federal officials said in court documents, MAGA, I need you to hear this, okay? To Stacey's point, you said we were just fear-mongering that it wasn't true. Federal officials said in court documents that they halted billions of dollars in funding for energy projects to states, quote, based solely on whether they backed President Trump in the 2024 election. When the Trump administration canceled more than $7.5 billion in Biden-era federal grants for clean energy projects in October, it framed the move as an urgent corrective to protect taxpayer funds from waste. But it wasn't true. In little notice court documents, federal officials acknowledged this month that they had terminated the funding based solely, a quote, again, in the court documents, based solely on political criteria, targeting projects in states that were represented by Democrats and had voted for Kamala Harris, the party's nominee in 2024. The admission showed how President Trump has weaponized the provision of federal education, energy, health, housing, and infrastructure projects in his second term, far from rooting out the sort of misspending that Mr. Trump sees as rife in Washington. The White House has instead sought to leverage the budget as a tool to assist its allies or as a cudgel to hurt the president's foes. Any comments from Republicans on that issue? Shocker. You want to know what? We were right again. Anybody want to comment on that? When the administration itself has to admit, yeah, we did this. We weaponized MAGA. The president weaponized the government to go after his political enemies. Shocker, how that worked out. All right, I'm gonna go back since the name Timothy Snyder was invoked, and since we're talking about red states and blue states, Timothy Snyder, we've shared his work on the show before. Award-winning journalist, preeminent expert on Russia, Ukraine, and Russian propaganda, which is why I like the guy so much. You're right, Kamala was right about everything, exactly. He's going to talk now about how we have this economic divide in our country, and the economic divide is because blue states pay the bills. Okay, here we go. Hang on a second. Let me rewind this. Did I just say rewind? It's not Blockbuster, Steve. Do you guys ever have one of those? I used to have the, sorry, tangent. I had a VHS rewinder that looked like a Corvette. Like the back would pop up. You would slide the VHS in there, and it would rapid fire rewind. Anybody ever have one of those? Yeah, please be kind and rewind. Right? Exactly. And then you would get, like, you'd rent the next video. Like you'd go and you'd rent, Fast Times, and you'd open it up and somebody didn't rewind it. Damn it. You had the Batman one? That's awesome. All right, here we go.
On a redistributive consensus in which blue states pay taxes and red states consume the results of those taxes while everyone pretends it's the other way around. There's a level of literature, or if you want to be unkind, fiction at the top. And that is that the red states are hardy and independent and so on. And like people in the blue states tend to humor that, right? Or Democrats will humor that about Republicans. They won't deny it frontally, usually, that you're hardy and independent and self-reliant and so on. But in fact, we depend on a redistributive consensus in which California, to mention the state you mentioned, or Massachusetts or New York, they pay taxes so that Kentucky and Alabama and Mississippi can have stuff. And that's the way our country works. And it's a financial reality, but it's also kind of ideological reality that people in blue states believe that they ought to be funding in a redistributive way. And people in red states believe that they ought to be pretending that that's not happening. And so, that's how the relationship works. That seems to be not terribly stable as a model for a relationship.
So ironically, we've gone through the numbers many, many times. Red states are recipient states by and large. Blue states are donor states. California alone spends like $80 billion they send to the federal government every single year because we pay your bills. You're good, Lisa. Don't worry about it. Because we pay your bills. And yet you still have the highest rates of poverty. You still have the highest rates of violent crime. You still have poor education outcomes. You still don't have strong, robust social safety nets. Why is that? What are you doing with your money? Sounds like somebody should investigate waste, fraud, and abuse. That's what I would do. I mean, if I saw obvious examples of waste, fraud, and abuse, I would investigate it. So where's all that money going, red states? It's certainly not going to your citizens. It's not going to your schools. It's not going to your infrastructure. It's not going to public safety. It's not going to law enforcement. Where's it going? Curious. And I'm going to use that opportunity to kind of, I wanted to touch on this topic. I've been wanting to talk about it for a while. I just want to make sure I had all the information correct. Still hearing a lot of, I was in a live last week with the gentleman, we nicknamed him the Thumb. It was a really, I don't like losing my temper. I try, and I appreciate what Stacey said. I don't function well in anger. So the fact that I lost my temper on a live bothered me. I don't like doing that, but I think it was necessary because we were discussing crime. In particular, we were talking about the number one cause of death for children in our country, which we all know is firearm death. This person didn't believe it. Of course, they said common sense tells us it's not, but I debated the topic and proved him wrong. And then I said 2,900 people, 2,900 children last year lost their life to the hands of firearms. And I asked if this particular creator, if he was okay with that. And he said, absolutely, I'm totally fine with that. It's a small number when you compare to the 4 million abortions that are happening every single year. First of all, despicably and disgusting to even say something like that, right? Of course, then we know that the number is not 4 million annually. So I decided I wanted to do a little bit of research. Yeah, that actually happened. And there's a friend of mine, I can't think of the name of the creator, but he screen grabbed it and he tagged me in it. And maybe I'll repost it because I think it's necessary. Exactly, the Thumb. People know we call him the Thumb. Anyway, I wanted to do a little bit of research because people continue to believe, be careful how I say this, the rhetoric from the right is that ABs are being used as birth control. And they're not. And in particular, I wanted to kind of look at the data since the Dobbs decision. Are you all aware that ABs have gone up since the Dobbs decision? So those of you who don't know, Dobbs is the one that overturned Roe. So ABs have gone up. And then I was really, really curious as to where that impact was. So I'll give you a little general stats first. In 2000, there was roughly 1.3 million abortions in our country. 2015, the number went down a little bit to around 900,000, 930,000 in 2020. And then it spiked to 1.1 million last year, which was up since the Dobbs decision. More than 90% of ABs occurred during the first 13 weeks of pregnancy. If any woman would like to come up and share this conversation with me, I'd be happy to host it. I'm just going to get into data. I'm not debating AB at this point. You all know how I feel about women's rights to their body. I'm just sharing data. But if you feel like you'll be part of this conversation, please request up. I'd be happy to have it with you. More than 90% of ABs occurred during the first 13 weeks of pregnancy. About 1% occur at 21 weeks of pregnancy or older. This comes from the CDC and Guttmacher. And then medical abortions using pills now accounts for the majority of ABs in the United States. ABs, and then we go a little bit further. ABs as a percentage of pregnancies or live births. The reason I wanted to share this is so we can get a full picture. Live births annually are around 3.6 million. And then the estimated number from Guttmacher and the CDC, it tracks 1.1 million ABs annually on average. That is up since the Dobbs decision. I'll bring up Jen again. And then I'm going to do the state-by-state breakdown, and you guys are going to be stunned what you're about to hear. Hi, Jen.
Hey.
Happy birthday again.
You do your thing, and I'll comment after.
Okay. So I was really curious if you were to look at the state on a state-by-state basis. So I'm going to give you the top 10 states that have seen an AB increase since the Dobbs decision. It's not going to surprise you. It may. At the top of the list, Missouri, an increase of 48.1%. Alabama, an increase of 38%. North Dakota, an increase of 32%. Indiana, an increase of 31%. Oklahoma, an increase of 29%. Mississippi, an increase of 28%. Louisiana, an increase of 26%. Kentucky, 21%. Wisconsin, 22%. And Texas, 21.3%. 9 of the top 10 are states that are red. And most of those states have restrictive abortion laws, and I'll get into that in just a moment. Comments? Yes, Jen? You're muted.
Sorry.
It's okay.
I was eating my bagel.
All good.
Because a good Jewish woman knows a good bagel. Sorry, I had to say that.
You're good.
So I think that statistic just goes to show that abortion bans do not stop women from getting abortions. And Sadie agrees. You know, and the thing is that when we talk about healthcare, we have to make these procedures safe, because we know now that from the statistics that abortion bans do not stop women from getting abortions. So if they're going to do it anyways, no matter how you feel about it, we need to make this procedure safe for women. Back when abortion was illegal, you must remember that women were going to back alleys. They were going to locations where they were blindfolded, where doctors were doing it on kitchen tables, where women were using hangers, where women were unaliving from infection and perforated uteruses. These are things that we can 100% prevent from happening by allowing women to get safe, sterile procedures, despite the fact that you may disagree with it. You know, you do not have to be pro abortion to allow a woman to have the choice to her own body. I know many, many, many people that are pro-life, but they also believe that it is none of their goddamn business what a woman does with her body, and they don't feel like it's their place to make the choice about what they should do with their body. It's devastating to see a woman come into the intensive care unit in complete septic shock or hemorrhagic shock because they used some kind of device, or they threw themselves down the stairs so that they could spontaneously abort a pregnancy because they had no access to it. These are preventable deaths. And one of the things that's so confusing to me, as not only I don't know, someone with brain cells, but also as a nurse and someone that actually cares about people, is that the Republicans constantly are saying how much they care about women, they respect women, they love women, they protect women, but then they do these things that are constantly putting women's lives in jeopardy. And I just don't get it. And anybody who's hearing this, no matter if you're Republican, Democrat, Green, Independent, Communist, whatever, it just doesn't make sense. You are passing laws that are putting women into situations where they have no choice, and they are reaching out to people that are not safe to get these procedures done. And it is sad, it is pathetic, and you need to really do some self-reflection.
States like Alabama, Louisiana, Mississippi, Oklahoma, Texas, and Kentucky all have near total abortion bans, and each one of them had an increase of over 20%. Texas had the largest absolute increase, adding nearly 7,500 abortions, even though its percentage increased, ranked 10th. Nearly all of that growth is attributed to telehealth provisions, meaning the abortion pill, rather than the brick and mortar clinics. Every one of the states that have near total abortion bans all saw an increase.
Yeah, and when we say, like, and there are states, and I don't remember which one, maybe you can look it up real quick, is there are states, I think it might be Mississippi, it might be Alabama, I'm not sure, that there's not even a provision for the life of the mother. There's not even a provision for rape or incest. They are forcing women to carry the baby of their perpetrator who violated their body. And on top of that, I think it was Minnesota wanted to prosecute physicians for performing abortions and getting an extraordinary amount of time in prison, that even the perpetrator of the rape would have gotten less time in prison than the physician trying to perform a medical procedure. And that is pathetic.
I agree.
That is sad and pathetic. And when you think about it, if you allow this to happen, where women are being forced to carry pregnancies to term and birthing children from these devastatingly violent and traumatic events, when a perpetrator comes out of prison, they technically could claim visitation rights
Correct.
of that child.
Correct.
Why would you do that to I mean, it's just beyond understanding, like why you would put women through such traumatic events in their life. It's just like I just don't understand it. And not only that, and I just want to add this part because I think people are kind of blind to this, Steve. Doctors spend hundreds of thousands of dollars and thousands upon thousands upon thousands of hours studying and practicing and learning to be professionals in their practice. When you have an abortion ban where they run the risk of losing absolutely everything except the debt that they owe to the government or wherever for their education, they are not going to take the risk. They are going to leave. That is what's causing an OBGYN desert in a lot of these states with very strict abortion bans. Now, if you are somebody who's a little bit naive and you think that OBGYNs only perform ABs or they birth babies, you are incorrect. These doctors also perform preventative care on women of all ages, including breast cancer, cervical cancer, ovarian cancer, vaginal cancer. All of these things are preventable with preventative care. If you are pushing them out of the area and you have women in low income in situations, and now gas is really high because we have just an idiotic president waging a war in Iran that's driving up the cost of gas. There are women that are not going to seek their annual or biannual preventative care, and there will be a rise in female cancers because preventative care is not accessible. And that is going to happen whether you like it or not. You cannot ask a woman to drive 100 miles at $5 a gallon of gas to get a pap smear because they're not going to do it, because they have to make choices between putting food on the table, paying rent, doing what they're doing, and getting a pap smear that no woman loves to get, right? And then because of that lack of access to those preventative measures, you're going to see women developing preventable female cancers. So it's not just the pregnant women or women of birthing age that you're hurting. It is all women.
Thank you for that perspective. And I just want to remind anybody conservatives that are in the chat that were cheering on the Dobbs decision. Missouri, 48%, Alabama, 38%, North Dakota, 32%, Indiana, 31%, Oklahoma, 29%, Mississippi, 28%, Louisiana, 26%, Kentucky, 21%, and Texas, 21%. Those are all red states, all in support of denying women rights to their body. All of them had massive increases in AB since the Dobbs decision. So there you go.
And I know this sounds terrible, but I'm a very, I'm a trauma nurse. I did my thesis on avian influenza, and I did a lot of research. I did 2 years of research to write that document. I love research. I love statistical analysis. And I know this sounds really terrible, but I would love to do a perspective study. If there's anybody that's interested in doing it with me that's listening, a perspective study on how these very strict abortion bans in these states have increased the numbers of female cancers that would have been preventable with preventative care. It would be a very interesting thing because I like I said, I think that, people are very focused on women of birthing age, but they're not thinking about the 50-year-old woman who's at risk of ovarian cancer that now can't see an OBGYN to get checked.
I think about, maybe an interesting question for you. I think about the contradiction of the Hippocratic Oath that physicians must take, right? Because if they see a woman in distress, they're obligated under their oath to treat, right? But depending on the law of the state, they may be found in criminal violation. So that's an interesting contradiction, right?
Yeah, yes. And I think what has happened from the studies, from the stories that I've read and really dug deep into these stories of women who we're in those situations that, you come into the ER, you're not feeling great, there's something wrong, they identify it. If you had taken care of it right at that moment, then, you could have had a better outcome. But what they're doing is because they're having to go and contact their legal team before the doctors can do the job that they are taught to do, that they know that they need to do. The woman the care is delayed, and then they end up with a terrible outcome, with usually the woman suffering severe consequences, never able to have babies again, or they unalive. And it's not because they don't know what to do. It's because they're so worried about breaking the law and them going to prison, or something happening legally with them, with the state, rather than taking care of your patient first.
Stacey, I saw you requested again. Did you want to add something?
Yes, Jen, all the snaps, all the claps for the facts. That was fucking brilliant. I personally am, I'm in a blue state. I can go, I do have access, but I am having a hard time finding a doctor. And I'm late for my appointments because my gyno went MAGA. My gyno told me, we're friends. So she would book me the last appointment, and then we would go for cocktails and naps. And she told me that, first of all, she said, I don't know why everybody has such a problem with Elon. I mean, that was my first alert. That made me put my French fries down.
Oh boy.
Then she went to these, this is a researched travels. She's a very smart woman, which is one of the reasons why I was so drawn to her, right? She travels and lectures and all of these things. So I don't understand how she could get her brain so twisted. She's like, all these stupid doctors in the South. I met with a boardroom full of lawyers who said there are no laws on the books that say you cannot intervene when a patient's life is in danger. They're all just stupid. I'm like, so all of them? You're smarter than all of them? They're all just letting their patients unalive because they're stupid? What are we talking about here, right? So there's that. But I also wanted to come out to add to the stats and facts and data. People who kind of piggybacking on what you said, Steve, about how the rates of AB have gone up and maternal mortality has gone up, Jen. People who think that this has, that before Roe, things were just so terrible. It was like the Wild Wild West, and people had their punch card, like 4 ABs and you get the 5th for free, and it's just so great, right? Before Roe fell, 41 states had gestational limits, meaning there's always been limitations that the states have put on AB.
Sure.
It's not just been wide open. And anybody who intellectually believes that in post-birth AB, I don't understand. I don't understand how you're able to get out of bed and not fall down.
On that topic, Stacey, when I was mentioning that live that I was on with the gentleman who said the despicable thing he said about gun violence, he actually stated, he said, New York has a law that you can abort your child 1 year after birth.
Yeah.
That's what these people think. Seriously. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
Right. That's just right, Ren. That's just birth, and that's called schmurder.
Exactly.
Right. That's called premeditated first-degree schmurder.
Correct.
And if you know of somebody who's doing that, I suggest you get on the line and dial 911, because if not, then you're complicit. Anyway, now since the fall of Roe, 23 to 27 states don't even have the ability to put AB on the ballot, so they have zero say.
That's right, because some states don't allow for petitions, voter petitions or referendums, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. So 41 states already had limitations, and now almost half of our states have no ability to say. So for all you, it's back to the states rights, all you states rights folks, go fuck yourself, because it has taken away that ability. That mechanism no longer exists for these women in these states who are being held captive and who are, if you're living in a state where there's flock cameras, you are really being watched.
Totally. We hear the stories about there was a commercial that came out. I think it was it might have been from the Harris administration or the Harris campaign about being stopped at the border. Being
right.
Yeah, you got a lot of background noise. Just mute you for a second. I think being stopped at the border. Where are you going? Show us the evidence. And what are we going to be doing? Taking pregnancy tests on the side of the road now?
Exactly.
Seriously.
Exactly. You want me to pee in your cup? You want to pee on that stick right there? I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. From 1973 to 2022, there were 1,381 restrictions total that were placed on AB gestationally. And you have ripped all of that away because you care about babies. Talk to me about that data. You might want to go check that data. Just saying.
Well, Stacey, they don't really care about babies. They just care about women giving birth.
Yes.
Because once the baby is out,
right,
they don't give food stamps. They don't want to give Medicaid. They don't want to give school lunches. God forbid that baby should
maternity leave, FMLA. Yeah,
they don't. Yeah, God forbid that. God forbid that baby should be part of the LGBTQIA community. We want to strip the rights of that baby as well. But I just want to say something about late term ABs. Okay. And I think that this has been poorly, it's just rhetoric and it's propaganda. First of all, there is no state in the United States that allows a late term AB without the fetus having an abnormality that is not compatible with life. Okay. It has to be authorized and reviewed by 2 neonatologists. Neonatologists are high risk pediatricians. Basically, they focus on infants or fetuses and mothers that are extraordinarily high risk. 2 of them have to sign off. And then just for everybody to realize, this is not a regular AB procedure, okay? The woman has to be induced and she has to birth the fetus. So it is an extraordinarily traumatic thing to happen, knowing that you're going through the process of birth and knowing that the fetus that you're going to deliver is not going to survive, okay? And so it's an induction. The fetus is known to not going to survive. And then at that point, they need to make a decision whether, what the family wants to do in combination with the mother, the father, and the physician. And that is only legal when an abnormality is present in the fetus that is not compatible with life. It doesn't happen any other way. There's nothing else that it just doesn't happen. And what really makes me mad is that they use this sound clip from a senator who was a pediatrician or an OBGYN. I can't remember which one it was, where they cut out that very particular part about what he said, is that it's only done when the fetus is not compatible with life. It is only done after 2 neonatologists sign off. And then once the fetus is born, they make it as comfortable as possible and allow it to pass away in the arms of the mother and father. They took all their information out and just did what they wanted to do to make you think that, people are unaliving babies, which, by the way, is called infanticide. And that just doesn't happen. It is a felony. It's schmurder. It doesn't fucking happen.
Blue Dot, thank you for your patience. You requested. What's on your mind, friend?
Hey, you were talking about the flock cameras. That's for facial recognition, license plates, and all that stuff, right?
Right.
Have you heard of Leonardo, the LSAG?
No.
It's with those cameras. It can read your Wi-Fi, your Bluetooth. It can read everything on your phone.
Great. Super. Fantastic.
Yeah.
It'd probably take.
They're putting those up now too with the flock cameras.
I'm sure it has biometric stuff, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, we're gonna
absolutely. If it could read your phone and you have like your medical records on an app, it can pull that.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Blue. I'm gonna drop you down for a second. I just want to continue this particular conversation, but thanks for being here, friend. I appreciate you. Yeah, I mean, I think that I'm glad you said this, and Stacey said the same thing. This is when we have these conversations, and I appreciate the two of you supporting this conversation that I'm trying to have here. It's not for this chat necessarily, although people in the chat, and I always hope that there are MAGA women in particular who claim to be pro-life, who are hearing these conversations and then looking in the mirror and asking themselves, what the fuck am I supporting? Because, by the way, the gentleman that I was speaking to about this topic, the thumb as we call him, admitted that his wife had an abortion, ironically enough. And then he also tried to claim that he knew somebody in Germany who had 11. Like it's like you said, like it's the BOGO. Like you said, it's the buy one, get one.
Right. Hope
You know, I'm gonna call my friend Dom up here and ask him. He is from Germany. He goes back and forth all the time. I want to see if that's even legal.
Yeah.
Do you mind, Steve?
I don't mind at all. No,
Okay,
go
hold
for
on
it.
one second.
Yeah, I mean, this is what we're talking about. Again, Missouri, Alabama, North Dakota, Indiana, Oklahoma, Mississippi, Louisiana, Kentucky, Wisconsin, and Texas. 9 of the top 10 in increases in ABs between 2024 and 2025 are all red states, and the increases are all above 21%. So explain to me what this accomplished other than putting women at risk nationwide, putting doctors in jeopardy of losing their licenses. I mean,
yeah. So I think a lot of these people, and it's coming to light when we're hearing more people who got out of MAGA. I escaped MAGA. There's a clip going around social media. I can't remember who the interviewer was. It was like a panel discussion. This woman saw a documentary on J6, and it was the first she knew about it.
The Leaving MAGA crowd. Yeah, I've seen some of that as well. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Stop
She said
watching.
she asked
Stop
her
watching
husband,
Fox.
like,
Yeah, stop
"Is
watching
that
Fox
real?"
News for a week, or whatever.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mhm.
So they are in their news silos, their social silos, and they don't know. They're not having these conversations. They don't have access to this information, right? So they're just regurgitating what they hear, and we all have that challenge, right? We all want to be in our safe spaces and don't like, the uncomfortableness. But that is how they believe that they're doing the right thing, because they don't know AB is going up. They don't know that women used to have more rights than they do now. They don't know, and they don't want to know, because then that would cause them to challenge them, and as Lisa would say, it would make their cognitive dissonance itch.
I want to be careful how I ask this question, because I'm not asking if it's something you agree with or you would be happy with, but would both of you support if Roe is back in play?
Yes, because Roe v. Wade was not about abortion.
Right,
Roe
right.
v. Wade was
Privacy.
about fucking privacy.
Right.
I do not have to tell anybody what I do with my fucking body. It's crazy because I one time all right, well, whatever. I'm a big mouth. But anyways, I one time got written up for a HIPAA violation. I did. I got written up for a HIPAA violation because something they saw and this and that and blah, da, 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 da. Okay, so when we consent a patient for a procedure, when we're doing multidisciplinary rounds, we have to close all the doors. Everybody has to be private. You go into a private conference room, you talk about the risks and benefits and all of that stuff. It has to be private. If I am not allowed to talk about my patient's appendectomy with anybody else, or anybody else is allowed to hear or know about that patient's procedure, why the fuck do you need to know what's going on in my uterus?
Right.
I think the bigger question that I should have asked would be: is Roe even too constrictive? Should there be anything?
Right.
That's the bigger question. That probably should have asked it that way. So is Roe was Roe in itself even too restrictive?
I would say I agree with the spirit of Roe because of what Jen said,
Okay.
Protecting our privacy, but it needs to be more. Obviously, it wasn't strong enough because it fell.
Correct.
Right.
Should have been codified.
It hadn't been codified, and it was still vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to put the protections of Roe into back into effect and codify that. Like, we don't have to call it Roe. We can call it Roe 2.0. We can call it whatever, but make it ironclad. Everything we could possibly think of that the Republicans might try to sneak in, use backdoor, what have you, be cool. Then that's what needs to happen, and it needs to be codified. And as we were speaking about amazing presidents, Obama said it's one of his greatest regrets that he did not push to have Roe codified, because never in his wildest dreams did he believe, he was trying to get us health care. And everybody that came before him and every sitting judge before him, they had all testified it's settled law.
Correct.
In that lying piece of shit Kavanaugh, it is settled law. That Garden told Amy Coney Barrett, settled law. Be cool, right? Settled law. So there was no, I think healthcare was just more of a priority to him, but I love that he was accountable and said, yeah, my bad. I didn't see this coming and I should have gotten it done.
I think we can all agree that Roe, the language, and I saw Newshound mention this, that it was poorly written because, to your point, it was intended to be a privacy component and not specific around women's health care. So I think we can all agree in hindsight that it probably was poorly written. But I agree. Every scholar, everybody at that point made some assumptions. And as we've learned, we can no longer do that in politics. We have to make things iron fucking clad. No doubt. You were going to say, Jen?
Oh, no, my friend Dom is looking for a quiet place. He said that is a lie about Germany.
Of course it is.
And he's trying to find he's actually a vet, and he came here to the United States. He is from Germany. He goes back and forth to Germany all the time. His parents live there. So he said that's a lie, but he's trying to find a quiet place to come up here and explain.
That's fine. Anything else that either one of you would like to add on this or any other topic?
Nope, I think I'm good.
Leave women alone.
Agreed.
Yes.
Agreed. And I want to use this opportunity, gentlemen. Do not be afraid to have this conversation. If you want to be considered an accomplice, I know we don't want to necessarily. I'm not here to debate the specifics of pregnancy, but if you truly believe that the government should leave women the fuck alone, then don't be afraid to talk about this topic. Please be an accomplice.
Please.
Be an accomplice.
And don't be gaslit by people who know someone. We don't all know someone. I personally do. There are people who have figured out ways to do things that have used loopholes in different states, what have you. Do not jump on that bandwagon. Do not live in anecdotal land. Women's lives are on the line. Women have already lost their lives, and women will continue to lose their lives until we take back control of this issue.
I appreciate that. Emily, I saw you requested, did you want to talk about this topic?
Yeah, I just wanted to add that abortion is not without trauma for the patient.
Of course.
It's not, I cannot imagine that people use the argument that it's used as birth control when I'm not going to get too personal, but I know for a fact that it's painful. The birth control, the abortion pill is painful. It's one of the most painful things I have seen happen. And an abortion in an office setting, in a office, I don't know, a doctor's office setting, has been so intensely painful and so distressful for the mother that panic attacks are not rare. They have to have people that are counselors and help, hold hands. It's not used as birth control.
No.
And just wanted to make the point that it is not without trauma.
Agreed.
And I personally know and the person closest, the other woman in my life that is closest to me has had one and said, I will never, ever go through that again. It was the most painful experience of my life. And she has given birth to a child naturally. So she said, I'll never do it again. I can't. It was the most painful thing I've ever been through. So drop me.
It's a great point. Emily, thank you for jumping in, friend. I appreciate you very much. Thank you for being here. I love you, friend. I'm gonna.
I just want to comment on that really quickly.
Sure.
I do believe that that is true. I don't disagree with Amy whatsoever. There are women that develop a lot of pain. However, there are also clinics, just not because I don't want to scare women that are thinking about this. There are clinics that do provide localized pain medication, and they also offer you a medication to calm your nerves because it is very anxiety ridden and it can be a very painful procedure. So if you are contemplating this, ask the questions that you need to ask in order to find the right clinic. In order that if they do not offer any of that stuff, call another clinic because there are clinics that do that. I'm going to get vulnerable with 1,000 people in here because, you know, Steve, that's who I am. When I was 19 years old, I was in a very physically abusive relationship and became pregnant. And I knew I did not want to have a baby with somebody who was beating me up. And so I went, they gave me a local anesthetic in my cervix, and they gave me a little bit of an anti-anxiety medication, and I sailed through it just fine. After I, sought therapy because there's all that, but there are places that do offer that. So if you're looking for something to help you, make sure you ask those questions because they can give those to you.
Thank you both for jumping in. Anything else either one of you would like to add?
No.
I'm good.
Other than the fact that don't let yourself be gaslit, because I have heard that argument from the right. It's so awful what women have to go through when they go through these procedures. It's so damaging to them. How damaging would it have been to Jen had she been forced to stay in that situation? How damaging is it to lose your wife when you have 2 other children at home? Miss me with that bullshit. You can drop me, Steve.
I appreciate you very much, Stacey. Thanks for coming back up. Have a good day. Love you, friend. See you later.
Hey, you guys, can I get you guys to help Michelle 77777 and bang out that live goal, please? That live goal, that really, really helps us. We're doing great today. We really hit a lot of our goals. We're almost there. But Michelle would be so satisfied if you really were to bang out this last gift goal for us. Let's get down tonight. Bang out that gift goal, everybody. Michelle really needs it. She really wants you to get that gift goal banged out. She likes all those boxes filled.
Be cool. I appreciate you, friend. Thanks for coming back up. Love you. Talk to you later. Happy birthday again. Yeah. Talk to you later. Bye. So again, I want to reiterate. So, gentlemen, I'm speaking to you directly. Do not be afraid to have this conversation. If you feel like you can't, and especially if you host panels, if you feel like you can't and you need to have representation, then please do so. Obviously, I'm always going to lean towards that, but don't be afraid to have the conversation. If you advocate and consider yourself accomplice for any marginalized community, do not be afraid to have the conversation. Respectfully, if there's an opportunity to create an environment where you do have inclusivity and representation, then certainly do that. But if I'm gonna be out on the road for the Do Something tour and I run into somebody who believes that women should not have rights to their body, do you think I'm gonna shy away from that conversation? Fuck no. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So I would encourage everyone, gentlemen in particular, think about that. And then again, I can't only speak to, but I'm speaking to white men. We are part of the problem, fellas. And I need white women to speak to other white women because you're part of the problem too. That's what's holding our society back. So much so that we are denying women rights to their own bodies. Could there be a bigger example of the deep state than that? So again, don't be afraid. Appreciate you all. We'll get another 20 minutes or so, then I have to head out to duck swimming. Good morning, Purple. How are you?
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Fine, thank you. What's on your mind?
You know, I was just scrolling through and I saw your prompt, and I'm a disabled Purple Heart combat veteran, as you might have gleaned from my username. And I just find it absolutely atrocious that anyone, but let alone active duty or veterans, decided to pull the lever next to his name when they actually went and served for this country. And they are literally being mouthpieces for a man who preaches about American values and patriotism, yet is single-handedly destroying our Constitution and has used, 4 or 5 deferments to get out of Vietnam, while then calling them suckers and losers. It just baffles my mind the level of pretzelness they will twist themselves into to defend anything he does.
Totally agree. Thank you for your service, by the way. Totally agree. I hope you didn't see the image as disrespectful. We're trying to make a point.
No, I loved it. That's exactly why I came up, because it's exactly what it feels like. You know, I personally feel, and I know I get a lot of pushback on it, but we talk about the age range in which people should be able to serve. You have to be at least 35, but you can be 80, 90 years old and run for president. Right. I really, truly think that one of the other things that you should have had to have done is if you want to lead the armed forces and you want to be able to make the calls and the decisions to send men and women into a battle which they could potentially lose their lives, you should at least have to have some kind of service behind your name in order to do that. Because I don't care how many generals you have advising you. We know at the end of the day, it comes down to the president and the president only to make those unalivement calls when they're sending troops into battle.
It's interesting. I think most presidents in our history, had served at some point, right? Most. It's interesting.
Yes, sir. And the last one was Bush Jr., I believe, was in the National Guard. But the last one that actually saw combat was his father, H.W., was the last president to actually see combat as a sitting American president.
I think he was a pilot, wasn't he? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
That's interesting. I don't know if I entirely agree with your point, but I appreciate your perspective. I think it's interesting, especially if you're going to, like you said, if you're going to be making these decisions, to send young women and men and non-binary individuals to serve, then there should be some skin in the game, so to speak. You shouldn't. Well, at a minimum, you shouldn't be a draft dodger.
Yes, exactly. I think that was more my point. You shouldn't have dodged the draft, yet go up here and call these same individuals who were either drafted or just made the decision to go and fight for their country suckers and losers. And, you know, the one gentleman who gave his Purple Heart to Trump, and his only response was, "Oh, great, I got it the easy way." You know, just
exactly.
And these veterans in active duty who look at this man and the plurality of them that decided to pull that lever, it really truly baffles me, because he has done pretty much next to nothing for veterans. You know, I called the crisis hotline just last week, to be honest with you, and I waited almost 9 minutes to speak to somebody, because the level of people he has fired from the VA system, a lot of those are ones that staffed the hotline. And it is just ridiculous. We have $1 trillion military budget. We spend $50 million a year on Viagra, yet we have 34,000 homeless veterans still to this day in this country. It just blows my mind.
Well, I appreciate your service, sir, and for your voice. Thanks for joining us today, and be safe out there, okay?
I appreciate you. Have a good rest of your day, sir.
Same to you. Thank you very much. It's a great point. I think the number's even more than that. I think it's closer to $80 million now. But yet we don't want women to serve because they're concerned about women's health care. Yeah, that fucking tracks. Let me give a quick thank you to a couple people. Thank you to Estelle. Thank you, Estelle. $3. Estelle says, I love your show. Thank you, Estelle, for saying that. I really appreciate that. Help us take care of that gift goal. We have to keep Michelle satisfied. So everybody get busy taking out that goal. We appreciate you all very much. It's not easy. She's demanding. Hi, Ash. How are you?
I'm good. I just came up following what the gentleman before had said. Just kind of remind me, if you've never read Bush Sr.'s the story of him and his unit, it's harrowing.
It is.
So yeah,
it is.
but yeah, I recommend it to people to just see what the things that can happen, and just to, he may have not been a good president, but he was a good soldier.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, and that's a really good. I'm glad you said that. That's a good distinction. Served his country honorably. Many would consider, the hero term gets used in a variety of ways, but many people would consider him, a bit of an American hero in that regard. Yeah, but I appreciate saying that because
I would, and I didn't. Yeah, I would. I didn't think he was a good president, but when I found out that, he was a hero in terms of service.
Agreed. Thank you for saying that. I appreciate you jumping in today, Ash. Have a good
You're
day.
welcome.
Be safe out there.
Right.
Yeah,
you too. Bye.
Bye. It's an interesting perspective that Purple Heart Warrior had about you shouldn't maybe one of the qualifications to be commander in chief is to some level of service. I don't know if I entirely agree with that because I do think it limits the amount of people that could run for president. Would that be a good thing? If we're going to be having that conversation, I think I mentioned this over the weekend that the qualifications to be the president of the United States, 35 years of age, have to be lived in the United States. I think it's for 14 or 15 consecutive years, and to be a natural born citizen. Zohran Mamdani, last time I checked, was naturally born. I'm not advocating for him necessarily. I'm not saying that. But if we're going to be looking at the language of the Constitution, because people on the right certainly have approached the Constitution with a lot of ambiguity. So why not make the claim? Why not test it? You guys know me. I will always try to find the silver lining in anything. So if there's a silver lining I'll take from these last 10 years, it's why not challenge the system a bit? That's what the right's done. They've challenged everything, challenging the First Amendment, challenging the Fourth Amendment, challenging the Fifth Amendment, challenging the 14th Amendment. Do it for good, though, right? Do it for good. Use the executive orders in the way in which they have, but just use them for good. Use executive orders to say, oh, I don't know, executive order mandated by President insert here that AR-15s are no longer allowed to be carried in public. Test it. Why not? Test it. Executive order that women's rights to their bodies are protected in all 50 states. Executive order. Test it. Why not? Why not? Taxpayer, red states will executive order. Red states will no longer receive federal tax dollars that were sent to the federal government from blue states. Test it. Why the fuck not? And this is when we talk about how take the fucking gloves off. It doesn't have to be revolution. It doesn't have to be blood in the street. It doesn't have to be violence. You can just use the power of the pen, right? They've done it. That they want to say, the recent Smithsonian decision. By the way, I want to thank our friend Ren, who we have a correspondent in D.C. now, who actually I texted her yesterday and I said, hey, would you do me a solid? Would you mind swinging by the Smithsonian and see if there's any of those signs that have been put up reminding people that this museum is now loaded with inaccurate information? So let's flip the script. Let's put an executive order saying there's a section in the Smithsonian dedicated to the rise of fascism in America, and it's highlighted through Donald Trump and his administration. Oh, I mean, seriously, take his name fucking off of everything. Repaint the pool. I mean, I'm getting a little bit petty, but why the fuck not? Why the fuck not? Let's get a little damn petty. Why not? Yeah, make them spend money fighting the cases. Agreed. Good morning, Danny. How are you?
I'm good. As I told you before when I came up on your live, I'm legally blind. So the things that I would want to say to you in the chat, I can't because I can't see because of diabetes, but I just wanted to call and publicly say to you, you are doing such a great service.
Thank you.
By putting the truth on the air. You are the Jedi version of Rush Limbaugh. Rush Limbaugh was a Sith Lord. And so you are the Jedi version of Limbaugh. And I hope, and I'm serious. I really hope you get as big as Limbaugh. The problem is during his days, we had no one to counteract his lies, misinformation, and racism. And the conservatives, for whatever reason, you're talking about the power of the pen. This is the thing that I've noticed, and I really don't care about partisan. I'll never be conservative, but the conservative is only interested in removing the rights of American citizens.
Correct.
I've never seen the liberal or the progressive seek to reduce, remove, or diminish the rights of American citizens.
That part.
Never in my whole, and I'm 58. I'm from the state of Georgia. I've never seen it. The only, if we have to use the term ideological bent, the only ideological bent that has ever been an enemy of the Constitution has been the conservatives. That's it in a nutshell. So I would hope that the listeners that are in this chat and that are in this group, this space, I would hope that you would set aside, because I'm sure there's some conservatives listening.
There are.
I would hope that you would set aside your uneducated, fake grievance of being left out and look at the Constitution. I served in the United States Marine Corps.
Thank you, sir.
And I swore to uphold the Constitution against all enemies, foreign or domestic. I earned the Eagle, Globe, and Anchor 22 July 1987. And I have never espoused removing the constitutional rights from any American citizen. I think, this might be my opinion, I think you are a domestic terrorist. I think you are that domestic enemy when you seek to take away the guaranteed contractual agreement of every American citizen as espoused in the U.S. Constitution. You're a yellow-bellied, yellow-livered coward. You're not a patriot. You cosplaying as a patriot. You're just yellow. So thank you for doing what you do.
Thank you, Danny.
I listened to you.
Oh, we lost you.
Somebody was calling me. So just thank you for what you do. I'll step down and thank you.
Thank you, Danny, for your service and for your kind words, sir. I appreciate you very, very much. No notes other than to say a gentleman who took his oath seriously, calling out those that obviously didn't. So, Danny, thank you for your kind words, sir. That means a lot coming from you. And as a potential reminder to people who took the same oath that Danny took, how could there be such a break? By the way, Danny, if you're listening, I just want you to know how, thank you for that reminder, how incredibly, thank you, Jana, how incredibly kind and supportive the commenters in the chat were to not only you, but your service as well. So I just want you to know that. Love from our family to you and to yours, sir. Thank you very much for that. It was an honor to speak to you. But to the point, right? How could there be such a divide? How could there be people like our friend Gregory, legend, who makes our background, and our friend Obi, who served, and Danny, who served, and the numerous other people who have served their country, who understood the meaning of their oath. And then to have people who also took the same oath, who stormed the fucking Capitol on January 6th, who voted for this guy 3 times, who said that they would vote for him a 4th time if given the opportunity, and that Trump should be able to violate the Constitution and run for a 3rd term. It's wild. Exactly, Wolverine. It's wild. We know who the helpers are. Remember, Mr. Rogers always told us that. Seek the helpers. Look for them. They're out there. It's people like Danny. People like Danny. Thank you for that, sir. That was incredibly inspiring, motivating, and I am fired the fuck up for sure. You're right, Kim. Totally wild. Totally wild. East Winds, are you there? I don't think so. Oh, you are there. East Winds, how are you today? I don't think so. All right, I've got, I see Katie in there. I think I'll take one more guest, and I do have to wrap. If we could really work on taking out those gift goals, I would appreciate that. That does really help us with the algorithm. Helps us avoid, especially if we get a restriction or if we get a violation. It shows TikTok that we are an active, robust, healthy live, and they tend to like those things. So I appreciate that. Okay, I think I've got Pinky. Exactly. Progressive in your pocket. Exactly. Pinky, how are you today?
Good. How are you?
Fine, thank you. What's on your mind?
I just wanted to say about the AB. I'm from Kansas, because of family, very blue dot. Anyways, we were the first to put it on our ballot after Roe fell, so it was kind of a big deal. We overwhelmingly voted it down.
I remember that. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. However, since then, the Republicans have tried to twice put it back in sneakily ways, kind of like you do in big government with a reconciliation bill. So when the group of Republicans say we just wanted to leave it to the people of each state to decide, I don't believe that for 1 second. It's not about babies. Otherwise, we would be funding programs for women who have alive babies. It's about controlling women. And to say that we're leaving it up to the people of each state and we overwhelmingly vote it down, and yet you still try to hide it again and again, I just am so over being controlled by men.
Yeah. That. Bring on the matriarchy.
Yep. Exactly.
I appreciate you saying that. Thank you for joining today. Thanks very much. You have a good day. Be safe out there, okay?
Thank you. You have a wonderful day.
Same. Appreciate
you.
You
too.
All right. Yeah. I mean, what else is there to say? Seriously. It's literally the definition of insanity. You know, conservatives in our country and independents and non-voters and whomever it might be decided that they could put this guy in charge of our country, and instead of voting for the most qualified candidate to ever run for office and Madam Vice President, really? There'll be a lot of reckonings. Maybe not, but for many of them. All right, I think it is time to wrap today, friends. I want to just remind folks to come back tonight at 9 o'clock for our daily wrap-up show called That's a Wrap. It's becoming popular. I think people like it. I like it too, because it's like I can look at the headlines. I put in a lot of time for this show to make sure that we have content to cover 4 hours. And we balance it out. So there's a method to my madness. I prepare for between 2.5 and 3 hours worth of content. And then I assume that we're going to have guests, because we always do. And then that fills up the rest of the time. So that's my processing. That's how the programming in my brain works. Not microchip, just years of experience working in media. So that's where it comes from. Anyway, tonight at 9 o'clock, come on back for That's a Wrap. I'm going to be doing an interview later today with Chad Bianco. Thank you to Chris Montgom for the super chat on YouTube. Thank you so much, very much for your $10 contribution. You get entered into our contest. If anybody else wants to participate in our weekly contest, $3 donation to Cash App, PayPal, Venmo, all at Facts Still Matter, and that will get you entered automatically. Congratulations to Marva for winning last week's contest, for your donation to the cause. We really appreciate you all. That's cool. Thank you, Jen. That's awesome. Look at that thing. That's pretty sweet. Again, come back at 9 o'clock tonight. We're going to go raid, I think Danny's live. Let's go raid Danny. Danny 7. Danny's always doing the work. Always doing the work. So please head on over there, tell her we said hello, and I will see you back here tonight at 9 o'clock, friends. There is always something to do, my people. Please get out there and do something. Peace. Have a great day.